Good morning, everybody. Long time no see. I'm Spencer Israel. That guy is Michael Murray. Michael, what's up, man?
Hey, good to see you, Spencer. How are you?
Good to see you from the other side of Benzinga HQ. Guys, special day today. We're doing something a little bit different. We're not doing the usual live trading. We're not doing SPAC Stack. We're not doing Power Hour. We're doing a special event we're calling All Access. We've done one of these previously. We got some pretty good feedback, so we thought, let's just do it again. Here's the point of this show. We're not going to be talking trading. We're not going to be talking, hot stocks or news or anything like that. The point of the show is to give you a peek behind the curtain, if you will, of some smaller emerging companies that wouldn't otherwise get the chance to come up to the forefront. So if you're watching Pre-Market Prep this morning, you saw we had the CEO of Penn National Gaming on the show. Shameless plug. It's the same vein like that. The feedback that we got was, a lot of these companies, they have a lot to say, frankly, and they don't just necessarily want to talk about the same like three things or their financials or whatever. And there's an appetite to spend a little bit longer with these companies and to hear their stories a little bit. So here's the plan for the day. For the next few hours, next 2 hours or so, 2 hours or so, we're going to be talking to these executives, these founders, these CEOs, not so much about their stock, right? We're not interested in the stock, not interested in the financials and EBITDA, go away, right? Don't really care about that. That's not really the point here. The point here is, again, to just get the story of these companies. There's a lot of really, really, really cool stuff happening out there. And a lot of it doesn't get talked about. And Benzinga is trying to spread the love a little bit, is the point, right? We talk about the same 100 stocks every single day. And there's way more to markets, there's way more to business than the S&P 500 or the Dow Jones or the NASDAQ, right? So these are all companies that are smaller, than emerging. And the point is this: maybe you find them interesting, maybe you don't, but the point is that maybe by listening to them, I hope it's entertaining, but B, I hope you learn something or get some idea about an investing philosophy, a business philosophy, something that maybe someone says today that you can maybe think about another company, right? For example, that might be doing that. And to get the gears turning in your head, it's not just about the individual company, it's about the sandbox that they play in, right? So you might say, it had never occurred to me, for example, to look at companies that are trying to build non-lethal force weapons, right? It had never occurred to me to look at this kind of a cannabis company, right? Or this kind of a biotech company. So that's also the point, is to bring these industries to the forefront, to your attention. So here's how it's going to go. Michael Murray and I are going to go back and forth today, interviewing these executives. I'll start, and we'll go Michael, me, Michael, me, Michael, me. Michael, are you ready?
I'm excited. No, you hit the nail on the head. This All Access event is really exciting. We get to hear the backstories and some things that don't come up every day when we're discussing other events. So I'm ready. Let's get into it.
Okay. And then, just so we're clear, full disclosure, right? This video is demonetized on YouTube. We're not monetizing on that front. But as I said, this is like a pseudo investor conference. Okay. These companies are partners with Benzinga. Now, that does not mean that we're just going to kiss their butt the entire time and ask them the easiest questions. It does not even mean that we've gone over the questions ahead of time. They don't necessarily know what we're going to ask them, but they have paid to be with us today. So that's just I'm saying that up front. You can't come at me later on and say, "Oh, you weren't clear." I'm being as clear as I can be right now. Okay. So we're getting that out of the way. It's indicated on YouTube that this video is not monetized and has paid promotion. So just so you all understand that, and I don't want to see any tweets later on criticizing me or Benzinga because saying we weren't clear when I was clear up front. But again, these companies don't know what we're going to ask them. And we could ask some curveballs. We'll take questions from our chat as always. If you have a question about a company, drop it in. I can't promise you we'll ask it, but we will do our best to try if we have the time. And yeah, that being said, okay, so Michael, I'm gonna let you go. I will see you in a little bit. You're gonna come back for our second interview in around 20 minutes or so.
I'll see you then.
And so I will see you then. Let's get Michael off there. There we go. All right. So our first company coming up here is Kwesst Microsystems. We're talking to David E. Luxton. He's their executive chairman. Now, a lot of these companies today, just FYI, well, actually, all of them are public. They don't all trade on the exchange. So a lot of them trade on what's called the OTC markets. If you don't know what that is, it's basically just a marketplace where there aren't as it's basically easier to have your stock trade there than it is on an exchange. There aren't as many rules. There aren't as many regulations, capital requirements, costs, that sort of thing. And the whole idea is that there are a lot of companies, right, that trade on the OTC markets. There are small emerging companies like we have today. There are large companies that you've heard of like Nintendo and Tencent and Heineken and Adidas. And it's basically just a place for anyone who either doesn't want to or can't yet trade on an exchange. They trade there. So a lot of these companies are trading on the OTC markets. If you're interested in them, depending on your broker and how large your account is, you may or may not be able to invest in OTC traded stocks. I recommend everyone talk to your broker about OTC markets if you're interested. If you're not, then that's fine. You want to stick to NYSE and NASDAQ, that's cool too. Before I bring David on, though, I just want to do our first crypto update of the day, trying to do these every single day. So let's bring up a crypto heat map here, and then we'll get to David Luxton. All right, real fast, just to get this out of the way. It's obvious right on the screen, which is unfortunate because it's Friday and we're all feeling good. But Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, Solana, Binance Coin, XRP, Litecoin, all trading down today. Vast majority of the largest cryptos out there in the red. I hope that can turn around. You guys know I'm long Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. So, rooting for it. But we're down 1% in Bitcoin, down almost 5% in Ethereum today. Not a great start to a Friday, but hey, you never know. It's options expiration. There's going to be volatility in stocks. Maybe the volatility in stocks spreads over to the crypto markets. I don't know. Maybe not. But here's a crypto update of the day brought to you by Voyager. Get $50 in Bitcoin for free when you download the Voyager app. Fund your account with $100. Use the code ZING and make your first trade. And then they will give you $50 in Bitcoin for free. There's a link in the description. Go to Voyager.com to learn more. All right. Our first guest is here. Let me bring him on. David Luxton, the executive chairman of Kwesst Microsystems. Oh, there he is. David.
Here I am.
How are we doing today? Welcome.
Very well. Thanks very much.
Thanks for coming on today. We've got we got a little bit of time here. We got about 15 or so minutes. So let's get right into it. And let's just start for people that have never heard of Kwesst. Have no idea what you guys are. What are you?
So we're a defense technology company. And the sandbox we play in is what's called next generation tactical systems. And that's what military everywhere are migrating to, with billions and billions of dollars worth of programs to really modernize their land forces.
So to summarize, it's basically just non-lethal. Can you go into more detail? It's basically just non-lethal weaponry. Is that right?
Yeah. We focus in three areas, and one is non-lethal systems. Second is what's called, digitization of modern forces, land forces, and so that they have situational awareness and targeting information. And the third is counter threat systems against threats like drones, weaponized lasers, electronic detection, things that are emerging threats that are getting worse that we have technology solutions for.
Okay, so that's what you do. I want to talk about what you've done for a second. You have a very interesting background. For those who aren't aware, David, you, true or false, you like helped or you invented or co-invented paintball guns. Is that right?
Well, the concept was created by a stockbroker and a lawyer out of New York, and it sounded a little crazy at the time, but I thought the right equipment and the right marketing for that could turn it into a significant business, and that's exactly what happened. So I did design the first high-capacity made for paintball gun and the first water washable paintballs, because the original ones were acrylic paint that you had to get out of your hair and your clothes with turpentine. So yeah, that helped launch a pretty significant business for us.
And didn't you also like invent the blank?
Well, the bike, maybe you're thinking of Simunition.
Okay, yeah.
I founded a business called Simunition that's gone on to be the world dominant player in its space for close quarters combat simulated training for military, law enforcement, counter-terrorist, tactical teams. And this enables very realistic training out of real weapons, but it's not lethal. Okay.
So talk us through like your that journey a little bit from those companies, from the paintball to the Simunition to and then you ran Pepperball as well, which is a different company. Can you talk us through your journey and sort of how you ended up here at Kwesst with Kwesst?
Yeah. So, I've been for the past many years an investor in the defense community in specialty areas, things I understand. We've had some very good successes, private companies and public companies previously. And, I get pitched a lot of things. And when I saw Kwesst, and it came to me from very experienced people in the industry, people that I know, I was impressed with its potential. The founder also has a background in firearms and munitions, ran Colt Canada for almost 20 years. I also have an extensive background, if you have just been referencing, in non-lethal munition systems of many different kinds. I've brought a lot of these products that are on the market today to market in previous years, and had developed a technology called a low energy cartridge technology, which we feel is really a breakthrough in non-lethal technology systems that can be applied across many different types of non-lethal missions, from riot control, public order, subjugation of dangerous offenders, personal defense, and on and on. And so it's a valuable technology we're productizing now. So it's a natural for us because of my background, because of the background of the founder. But I've also been invested in defense electronics, thus our capabilities now in digitization of modern forces and electronic countermeasures against other types of threats. Such as lasers and drones and electronic detection. So this all fits with my background and with the background of the founder, Jeff McLeod.
Explain the sandbox at large in which Kwesst plays in, right? I don't know much about the industry. What kind of industry-wide tailwinds should investors understand about your business for people who don't know?
Sure. Well, first of all, that these three sectors we're in the defense business are very high growth sectors. And that's what we look for. We size the markets and opportunities with real discipline. We're very knowledgeable about the markets, and we're very knowledgeable about the industry. So that's the first thing. Where are the best opportunities? And that's where we have focused with the technology portfolio that we have that can be exploited many different ways. So one way I think of it, and one reason I came to Kwesst as an investor, and I'm now full-time executive chairman, is that there are just a lot of ways to hit a home run in this space. Militaries everywhere are modernizing. The demand for non-lethal solutions is skyrocketing. The demand for counter threat systems is also skyrocketing. Some of it we read about today about drones. Other threats we have solutions to and are bringing to market. People will start to read about on the front pages of the paper. So it's kind of tough news for the world, but great news for Kwesst.
I'm curious what I'm trying to like phrase this well, but like we saw a lot of headlines last year, a lot of social unrest, a lot of discussion just about use of lethal force and non-lethal force. I'm just curious, like what the last year and change really like has been like for your company, your customer base, etc.
Well, in the last year, we have a long list of things we accomplished. We recited some of this in a recent corporate update that we issued to investors. One of the really notable things, though, was the decision to go ahead with our non-lethal low-energy cartridge system to accelerate that to market, which we're doing, and it will be featured and showcased in January at the annual SHOT Show, and that's the show that happens every year in January in Las Vegas, and where people from the trade, from the industry, come from around the world by the thousands upon thousands to see what's new. We'll have a bit of a soft launch and some unveiling of those products between now and then, but that's when the big splash happens. So that was a big event last year.
Yeah. Okay. So you sort of answered my next question, but like, I know you just said you're doing a hard launch there, a soft launch, but what can you tell us about the launch, about the TASCS what can you say about it basically?
Sorry, about the TSXV launch?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So yeah, your listeners may not know that Kwesst went public just about a year ago at 70 cents. I think it's trading above $2 as we speak, and so it's had some very good support from shareholders, a strong shareholder base, and that's what's enabled us to believe that we are in the process of making this company into the success that we believed it could be. Really a platform company with very experienced people in high growth segments of the market that we pick very carefully, surgically, and where we have a real technology advantage with unique things that we can exploit, and where we have customers who are taking us up on it. We have a contract with a key U.S. military customer. I'm always careful how I say that because military customers often don't like to be named, and that's for our digitization system. Things that one signature product there that takes dumb weapons that have been around forever and turns them into smart weapons instantaneously. With a downloadable app and a snap-on device that provides the weapon systems and the soldier with situational awareness on what's going on in real time, including where the adversaries are, and allows the weapons to be used really like a video game, right, where you put a cursor on it and fire and forget. So that's a very important product we have in our digitization basket of things.
I guess I'm just curious, between all these things, between COVID and all the social unrest last year and the unrest overseas in the Middle East and Afghanistan, I'm just curious how all of that has translated to demand on your side.
Sure. Well, to the extent there's unrest in the world, it just drives demand for these kinds of things in general. So there's certainly unrest and anxieties that are driving markets for non-lethal products, and including and in particular for individuals for personal defense. So that's a large and rapidly growing market. Markets were already scheduled to grow on the military side. with programs that were on the books for billions of dollars in modernization of ground forces. That's another important category for us, and that's the driver, because militaries everywhere realize that in a conflict, most of the casualties that they take are ground forces. And so the grunts on the ground who do a lot of the fighting, and they're at the pointy end of the spear. And they suffer from not having a situational awareness they need and not having modern targeting methods. And that creates casualties and it compromises their operational effectiveness. So there's a big driver for that. And there are programs in the tens and tens of billions of dollars everywhere that are driving that. And then the other driver for our counter threat systems is just what you read about in the headlines, the threat of drones, for example, to begin with, where these are increasingly becoming a poor man's effective surveillance device, or a poor man's flying IED. We all remember the problem of IEDs. That still persists in the world. But now you can put explosives on a drone, and cheap drones send it into devastating effect, and everywhere the world is looking for solutions to this. So there's three examples of drivers across the three areas we play in.
And David, just wrapping up here, I'm sure when people think about all the technologies that you've talked about, maybe the first company that they think of maybe is Taser. So can you explain the difference between what you're building and what they're building?
Yeah, sure. So, Taser is what's called a conducted energy weapon. So it fires two wires out with prongs at the end of them, and if the stars align and the wires align, then up to about 15 feet, it'll be effective against a threat, meaning a dangerous person. So you can subjugate them that way, but the internet is replete with stories of the fatalities that have happened using Taser and its limitations. And, I know from being in the industry that there are security agencies everywhere looking for an alternative to Taser. Not that it wasn't an improvement over killing somebody for many years, because this is now dated technology developed many years ago. But the market's moved on. It's looking for something that doesn't have the limitations of a Taser system. Our cartridge-based system gives you a lot of shots to subdue a threat. And it's very versatile. You don't even have to hit the person for this low energy cartridge-based system to be effective. So that's maybe a little bit abstract if you're not seeing it in action, but when people do, I think they'll get it and they'll be very impressed.
David E. Luxton is the executive chairman of Kwesst Micro. I'll just put the there. Kwesst Microsystems. I'll put the name of the company up. You can write it down if you're interested. David, thanks so much for the time today, and good luck at the SHOT Show. When it's January, do you have an exact date for that again?
January, I think about January 18th to the 22nd.
January 18th, okay.
Day, but it's about then.
Nothing like knowing what the next big catalyst is going to be 3 months in advance. So, David, appreciate the time, and have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, appreciate your interest. Thanks.
All right. Let's get Michael Murray back on. Is he here? Michael, are you ready to go? Yeah. Yes. Michael?
I'm here. There we are.
All right, he's here. Cool. All right, we are moving right along. Our next, I said at the top that not all the companies on today's show trade on an exchange. This next one does actually. This next one has a lot of retail interest. Maybe we can ask our guest about that. But we're talking to Leonard Mazur, the chairman of the board of Citius Pharmaceuticals. I interviewed not Leonard, but Myron Holubiak, their CEO, I don't know, like a month or two ago now, and was like blown away by like the amount of retail investor interest in this stock. So we brought them back. So let me bring on Leonard Mazur right now, and Michael Murray, I'll let you take it away.
Leonard, hey, thanks for joining us. How are you?
Hey, pleasure. Thank you for having me on board here. I like that opening. Thank you. It was dramatic.
Very dramatic, no doubt. No, it's good to have you with us. It's an absolute pleasure. Excited to have you on. Like we mentioned in the opening, this is a really great event for us because we're able to dig into the backstories of companies, not just talk about the things that we discuss every day on some of our other shows and our other conferences, but we get to learn more about you guys, the people that make up the companies, the background and the ideals that you guys are built on. So let's start with that. Let's dig in. I want to talk about you a little bit. How did you come to be chairman and how did you come to be involved with Citius? Can you just give us a little bit of your background?
Sure. So my background is it's all pharmaceuticals. I started out in the industry with, and I spent 10 years with a company called Cooper Laboratories, which was a great training ground for me at that time. They made 150 acquisitions. I managed to ultimately be in strategic planning, acquisitions, and managing one of the company's business units. And then ultimately, I transitioned to BASF, ICN Pharmaceuticals, and then a startup company called Medicis Pharmaceuticals. So all those companies really played a role. They were all, in terms of my background, because they were, for the most, they were all led by entrepreneur founders. And those entrepreneur founders really, I learned from them. I learned the good and I learned the bad. So as a result, I decided at the ripe old age of 50 to go off on my own. I became an entrepreneur in the pharma business, which is a really hard business to get into if you don't have a breakthrough product and backing of major venture capitalists and so forth. So, but I did it that way. It was the hard way. And I had a company, a dermatology company, that was successful. Ultimately, I sold it to one of France's largest pharma companies, ran a company for them as their U.S. CEO. And then from there, I went on and had a partner. We formed several companies with great exits. And then what happened here is I've always had a very long-term relationship with Myron Holubiak, who was at Roche Laboratories, a very major pharma company where he rose through the ranks and became the vice president of marketing, introduced all kinds of major drugs. And ultimately, he formed his own company, sold it successfully, and then went on to become the president of Roche Labs. So we had known each other since our days in market research, where we met at one point at a conference. And we had always spoken about forming a company. So it finally got to that point. And so we sat down and we spoke about it, discussed it, analyzed it. We had parameters that we were interested in as far as what the company should look like, the type of products and so forth. We wanted to minimize the risk. We were prepared, and we did commit our own capital to the concept. So the very first company or the company that we formed was called LMB RX. Actually, that LMB stood for Leonard Biosciences after our names. We went and licensed the drug from MD Anderson in Houston, the #1 cancer hospital in the world, probably, for a condition known as catheter-related bloodstream infections, to actually to salvage those catheters and obviate using a replacement of those catheters. And we funded all the phase 2B work ourselves. And then ultimately what we did is we found another publicly traded company, Citius Pharmaceutical. We merged in with that, and that's how we got to where we are today.
Fantastic. It's a great backstory. No, and again, like I said, that's why this is so exciting too, is we get to hear all these details of how you came to be in the position you're in now, that we might not always get, with the typical investor presentation. So that part is great. We'll talk about, the recent acquisition that you had in just a minute and the things that are in your pipeline. But I guess really quickly, I'm kind of curious, when you first got to that point with Myron and you were looking at joining Citius, what things kind of stood out in your mind as most exciting? When you looked into the future of the company, was there anything that really piqued your interest or anything that you could see long term that you knew were going to be big developments and really set the company apart? I'd love to just kind of hear your mindset there.
We went through a transition here. So we took an approach, a regulatory approach known as 505(b)(2) initially, and working with compounds in that sphere. And those were existing compounds that were previously approved by the FDA that you modify, and the FDA you have sort of a shorter pathway to an approval with those. So that's why we chose that, and that's why we had the first drug that we did. But ultimately, we also recognize that, you know, in the pharma business, it's about innovation. We're in a high risk innovation business, and as a result, what we did last year, we in-licensed a very forward-looking drug, a mesenchymal stem cell drug potentially for the treatment of acute respiratory distress syndrome. And that drug, we think, has incredible potential down the road once it gets approved. It's early stage. We chose that because it also had a tie-in with COVID-19. The ARHTS population here in the United States, it's one that most people don't know about this, and that is that before COVID occurred, 250,000 people annually died from acute respiratory distress syndrome. And this is the syndrome that occurs to a COVID patient when they are hospitalized, and then ultimately they're in the ICU and they have to go on ventilators. They have ARDS. So there is no cure for ARDS. Half the people that get it die. So we think that we have something here that's life-saving, that addresses an unmet medical need, and will transform the way medicine is probably practiced in the future. That's what really excites us, because even with our acquisition of what we have, this is all about cellular therapy in a lot of ways. And cellular therapy is the way the whole pharma industry is going to ultimately move.
Outstanding. Well, like I said, it's not hard to see why you were so excited about it then, and clearly a lot of exciting things you guys are working on now. We've set the tone. We have the base. We understand why you were so excited about the company and why you got involved. Let's talk about kind of the core of this conversation, the E7777 deal. Why did Citius do this deal? What are some of the biggest points of it, and what's the market opportunity for that?
Sure. So this was a real compelling opportunity for us, and the reason for it is because it's not often that you can in-license or acquire a very late phase drug like this one. This drug is at the end of the trial. The last patient has been enrolled. The trial itself will be completed by the end of this year. It's completely de-risked. So, and the reason I say that is because it is de-risked from the clinical side. So here's what's interesting about it. The history of this drug is that it was on the market before. The Japanese company, Asahi, or Eisai, as some people pronounce it, acquired it from Ligand, had it on the market till about 2014, had a problem with the formulation, decided to pull it off the market and reformulate the drug. They went back to the FDA, and the FDA said, if you want to bring it back to the market, you'll have to run clinical trials, which they've done. They've had a lead-in trial, which provided a real important clue as to what the phase 3 trial would look like. And that data looked very compelling. They went on with it. They had also, at the same time, what Eisai did is, in that time frame, they licensed the drug to Dr. Reddy Laboratories of India, which coordinated the program, the R&D program, and the FDA interaction. They worked on it together. They did a great job in terms of the regulatory side and relationships with the FDA. So we feel very good about that. But most importantly also is the manufacturing side, or CMC as it's known. That manufacturing side now is completely de-risked because this drug will be manufactured in Japan. And I should add that Eisai had just several months ago received an approval for this in the Japanese market, for not only for CTCL, which is what this drug is for, which stands for cutaneous T-cell lymphoma of the skin. This is a very rare disease. It starts out in a low kind of expression way, and then ultimately it really becomes almost hideous and disfiguring for the patients themselves. It's a very difficult disease. There's really no cure for it. You can control it for a number of years, and the overall population for this in the United States is about 30,000 to 40,000. There's about 3,000 new cases annually. We think that the addressable market is about 30% of that, the overall population. So we have something here that de-risked from all sides. Now, people looked at it when they saw the press release and made comments. They thought that we were burning through all of our cash and that we'd have nothing left at the end of the day and have to go out and dilute some more, et cetera. That couldn't be further from the truth. So the facts of the matter are that we paid $40 million up front, which was, from our point of view, a low cost to pay for something this late in the process and with the kind of risk profile that I described. This will have a biological license approval or application filed somewhere in at the back half of 22. And with that comes what we really like, 12 years of market exclusivity. So the FDA looked at this as a new drug, and the profile on it as compared to the formulation that was on the market before is that there's less side effects associated with it as compared to where it was before. So we have something here that has a real compelling story to it. As far as the rest of the cash that was associated with payments, those are payments that will occur much later, years from now. They're payments related to approvals outside the United States, as well as we have the rights to develop this for another form of CTCL called peripheral or PTCL. So that'll come much later down the road. So most of the cash is right here up front. All the costs associated with the clinical trial, all that is behind us. We don't have to spend hardly any money on that except finish the process with the FDA. So I think we have, from a financial side, we've analyzed the numbers. We believe that this will be accretive to the company once this drug is approved and on the market. We think we're going to do really, really well with it. So we have plus on. I should mention that in connection with this, and this is what also excited the company and excited especially our chief medical officer. So last year we hired Dr. Myron Churchman, who as our chief medical officer. Myron, first of all, I'd like to highlight that we're the only pharmaceutical company in America with two Myrons in the top management team, Myron Holubiak and Myron Churchman, which is noteworthy in its own. So Myron Churchman spent 23 years at Roswell Park in Buffalo as the head of lymphoma and myeloma. He published 100 or co-authored 180 papers. He's considered a KOL in his field. Lymphoma is his expertise. He then spent 5 years at Celgene as the vice president of global research in lymphoma. So we had somebody here on our staff who knew everything about this drug. Not only knew everything about the drug, he actually used the drug when he was in practice, when it was on the market. So he knew exactly where this fit and how it's going to develop and how we're going to basically be able to take this to the new levels or new approvals when we start looking into that. So I think we have, combined, when you look at it, it's a win-win all the way around for us. Plus, I should add, it's synergistic with our Minilock program. So this is an oncology drug. Minilock is mostly used in settings with cancer patients. So most of the Minilock's use occurs with central venous catheters that cancer patients have, long-term catheters that get infected. So we see a perfect fit here for us in terms of what we have. We combine this with Minilock. We are one of the few drug companies out there with 2 late-stage phase 3 drugs. There aren't too many around. A lot of people have 1, but we have 2. So, and we like that. We think it's a great opportunity for the shareholders of the company. And I should add that, being shareholders, Myron and myself have a significant amount of the company's stock because we put in $26.5 million of our own money into the company directly, not in stock options, not anything like that. So we are committed. We're side by side with all the shareholders in the company.
Fantastic. Lot of information to digest and a lot to get through there, but all very, very helpful in explaining why this was such a significant deal. And then really quickly, I'm glad you spoke to the 40 million up front. It's a note that we had to kind of discuss here. Should investors at all be thinking or aware of, or perhaps preparing for a dilution event in the case of that 40 million up front? What's your perspective on that?
Not at all. So we had $115 million cash at the end of June 30th, this past quarter. And so I think all the shareholders, they know how to use math. They can subtract 40 from 115. That tells you where our cash is. We're not going to be burning hardly any cash at all now in terms of both this drug as well as Miniloc, which is at the end of its phase 3 trial also. So there should be no concern about dilution whatsoever.
Fantastic. Leonard, coming up on time here, looking to transition back to Spencer in a moment, but give us the 30,000-foot view, the future for Citius. In your words, what's most exciting about what's coming up on the horizon? What are some big things to look for? What are you personally really looking forward to about this company?
We're looking forward to bringing out introducing life-saving medications to patients that really need them. That's what really excites us, that we're addressing unmet medical needs. We believe that with both drugs that we have, Equad 7 as well as Miniloc, plus the mesenchymal stem cell drug that that's in the early stages, we very much look forward to the introduction of those drugs into the marketplace and make our mark in terms of helping people that are suffering from these diseases.
Outstanding. So much to look forward to. 2 late-stage phase 3 drugs, a recent acquisition, and a lot more on the horizon. So much to learn from Citius. Leonard Mazur, chairman of the board, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for the time. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's been great. All right. Leonard Mazur, chairman of the board with Citius. Fantastic segment. Spencer, what did you think of that?
I'm back, and yeah, I think everything that Leonard said sort of reflects the strong retail interest in this stock. I just want to tell a quick story, everyone. This is a little bit off topic, but I found this out the other month again when I spoke to the Citius CEO. But actually, fun fact, Michael Murray, I went to pre-K and kindergarten with Citius CEO's son.
No kidding. Wow.
No kidding. Yeah.
No way.
That's the end of that story. But
thinking way back. We'll not be way back.
Yeah, like 30 years ago. All right, Michael Murray, I'm going to let you go. It's my turn now. Let me bring on Adam Kaplin. This man has forgotten more, frankly, about science than I will ever know. He's a chief scientific officer of MyMD. And I see him here backstage, so let's get Adam Kaplin on here. Boom! There he is. Adam, how we doing?
Good. How are you, Spencer?
Good. Okay. Explain to us MyMD for those who aren't familiar with the company.
Well, MyMD is a recently merged company that is now publicly traded. What we have are 2 drugs. One is MyMD1, shocking, unique name, and Supera CBD. These are different drugs, and each brings a tremendous amount to the table, we think. The first one with the MyMD1 it's a TNF-alpha inhibitor, among other things, but the TNF-alpha inhibitor is unique. It's a $40 billion annual revenue from those. In fact, Humira gets $20 billion a year just from that. But what's unique about us is that our drug is both orally available. All of the rest are injectables. It is selective, so it doesn't seem to have the risk. It doesn't stop the body from mounting a response to an infection. That just comes, but it will stop autoimmune diseases. There have been a couple publications to show that out of Hopkins, and it penetrates the brain. So none of the TNF-alpha inhibitors are able to treat things like MS and CNS diseases. So then there's Supera, but I can stop and let
you. So maybe let's just stop there. There's a lot going on in that answer. So let's zoom out. The TNF alpha inhibitors and autoimmune diseases. Maybe we should start with autoimmune. That's the sandbox here, right? Just to get everyone on the same page. Autoimmune diseases. That's what MyMD1 is focused on. Explain that. I think you said $40 billion market. Just explain what autoimmune diseases, the market, and then let's maybe start with MyMD1, and we'll go into a little more about that.
Okay, sounds good. So first of all, that's $40 billion just for the TNF alpha inhibitors.
Okay.
So what autoimmune market includes are the kinds of diseases where the body mistakes, the immune system mistakes the body for a foreign invader, and therefore starts to attack various things. If it attacks your pancreas, you have type 1 diabetes. If it attacks your joints, you've got rheumatoid arthritis. If it attacks your brain and strips the myelin off, you've got multiple sclerosis. So those are common types of autoimmune diseases that people get. And this is a drug that blocks and interrupts that cascade of activation of the immune system.
I'm afraid to ask how it does that because I don't want you to get too technical on me, but I'm also a little bit curious.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it turns out that the very first responder, the master regulator of the immune system, which we are born with, ready to go from the start, is TNF alpha. These are the pro-inflammatory cytokines. So if you get any kind of infection, bacterial, viral, fungal, the first messenger that says, hey, something's going on is TNF alpha. And it then opens a cascade of other messenger molecules. But TNF alpha is kind of the master initial regulator. This blocks the production of TNF alpha and thereby interrupts the cycle. However, of course, you want to be able to fight off infections when those things cross your gut or the blood barrier and get into your bloodstream. So what's unique about MyMD1 is it doesn't affect the cells, the macrophages that mount a response to an initial infection, but it does get the B and T cells, the cells that are involved in causing autoimmune diseases.
What exactly is so difficult? Why hasn't this treatment and even the method of orally available? Why hasn't that been done before?
Well, so all of the treatments that are available to date are basically biologics. So they're antibodies, which are these huge proteins that can't get across the blood-brain barrier, can't get across and get digested in the stomach. So therefore, they have to be injected, all of them. This is the first small molecule, which is now already into through with phase 1 studies, and we have 2 studies that are planned to begin this year in 2021. One in COVID, because COVID has caused so much inflammation and a lot of post-COVID symptoms, and the other in aging. And I can talk about the aging aspect, which we haven't even gotten into, about MyMD1, which I think is really exciting.
Let's get there in a second. Let's start with the COVID aspect, though.
Yeah, it's on everybody's mind.
Yeah.
So, and there, as you know, COVID is an infection that people get from this pandemic virus, SARS-CoV-2. But what's really interesting is it's not the virus that causes all the trouble. It's the immune response to the virus, right? The virus is what really sets off the immune system. And so when people, have a lethal outcome and their lungs are under attack, that's really the immune system attacking the lungs and going haywire. And what is interesting is that there have now been studies that have shown after you get infections 3 months out, 50% of people will have a clinical depression as a result. And this includes things like brain fog, low mood, concentration, appetite changes, all of the kinds of hallmark symptoms of depression. And Spencer, the thing that's amazing to me is there isn't a single trial going on out there to address this post-COVID syndrome above the neck.
Are you referring to like long haul COVID, or is that separate entirely?
No. This is a part of the long haulers.
Okay.
You're absolutely right. So part of the long haulers is this clinical depression that often is associated with this brain fog.
Okay.
And so we are going after that. We've actually shown that in animal models of immune-mediated depression, so if you get the immune system really revved up, it will cause a clinical depression as well as this concentration problems. And we've shown that in animal models of this immune-mediated depression, MyMD1 effectively treats it. And that's a study that's going to be presented by researchers out of Johns Hopkins next week, actually.
Wait, so that I thought you said the trial is is starting. It has not started yet. I just want to clarify.
Correct.
Okay.
That's in animals. So
Okay,
in preclinical work. So
Okay.
it works in animals. Yes.
Okay. Can you speak a little bit? I don't know if you can about the size and scope of the study you're about to undergo.
Sure. It's going to be 90 subjects. It's going to be done at a major academic center. In fact, 2 different centers. And it's going to be involved essentially treating people for 6 weeks after they've been infected, after they are then through the initial phase of infection, and they're getting into that post-COVID, leading on to that long haulers kind of blending into that situation. And the whole idea is to interrupt that and prevent them from progressing.
Okay, so this is the COVID side of MyMD one. What about the aging side?
Yeah, so the aging side, we're really excited about it. We think this goes beyond just the TNF alpha. So TNF alpha is inflammation. It is one of the master regulators of inflammation, but it also inflammation is involved in a lot of age-related diseases. All of those autoimmune diseases we talked about, just about arthritis and all of these late-stage autoimmune diseases have aging associated with them. So aging poor aging involves overactivation of the immune system. But what's really interesting is we think it goes beyond that with MyMD1. There was a study that we're very excited about that is hopefully going to be published in the next month or 2. But we have seen the preliminary data, again, out of a major academic institution that shows when compared to rapamycin, which is up until now the major leading contender in slowing aging. And compared to that, this MyMD1, when given to mice, which essentially went from the human equivalent of 60 years to 85 years, if they were in the MyMD1 treatment group, they survived. They had a remarkable preservation of their strength, their muscle mass, etc. And if they were in the rapamycin group, they died off. It was a tremendous difference, and we think that this is going to really rock the industry of people looking at aging.
I'm trying to think, rack my brain. I can't think of any other major. I'm sure there are other major drug makers that are in the space and trying to tackle this similar to how you are, but I'm blanking on it right now. Can you just speak a little bit about the environment right now, though, of MyMD1? You're early on in the process. You're about to start a phase 1 trial, right? That means that we've got to do phase 1. We've got to get to phase 2. We got to get to phase 3, right? We got a bit of a ways to go. But can you speak a little bit just about the environment that you're in right now?
Yeah. So first of all, great question, Spencer. The fact is that this is a very new kind of holy grail environment, so much so that the FDA has not recognized a treatment to slow aging as an indication. And you can imagine that if you're just doing aging and you have to wait 20, 30, 40 years, that's going to be impossible to bring a drug to market. So what the FDA recognizes is aging-related symptoms or syndromes like sarcopenia, which is loss of muscle mass, or frailty. As people age, they get cognitive changes. They're more likely to fall, in addition to this loss of muscle mass. And the FDA recognizes these as a sort of surrogate marker, if you will, of the aging process. Now, the interesting thing is Bank of America says that the aging market is 600 billion, but there was a publication out of Nature Aging, the journal, and it basically said if you could add a year to people's life, that is globally a $40 trillion market. So it's huge. And the trick is, and this is the key point, is it's not just extending lifespan. Notice I'm not stressing lifespan because yes, the lifespan does increase, but it's delaying the aging. It's not like, gee, if this works, everybody will be old and demented. The idea is that this extends the normal, healthy portion of our life. That's
the square that I'm struggling to circle right now, or the circle that I'm struggling to square right now. Because you talk about aging, and the first thing that people assume is, life expectancy. You're going to prolong it, but that's not always a good thing, right? Frankly,
Right.
life expectancy is just the end number. There are all the years before the end number, right? So,
Correct.
I'm glad you pointed that out. Just the difference in quality of aging versus simply extending life expectancy. But at the end of the day, is this very simply just a demographic thing? I mean, the boomers are getting older. The largest generation, right? I would imagine the market is there, the opportunity is there. You've just got to get something through the pipes.
Yeah, so for one thing, I have to go back just and touch base about Spencer, just to clarify. We are done with our phase 1 studies. So we are starting 2 phase 2 studies, one in COVID, one in aging this year in 2021. So, but regarding the aging aspect, it is critical, as you point out, to note that it is worse. People have what they call the silver tsunami, or the white tsunami, of people who are aging and how that's going to bankrupt the economy, all of this stuff. What this is coming in at the right time, which is to preserve people's functions. So rather than have baby boomers all progress towards Alzheimer's and the kind of burden that's going to cause for the healthcare system and the like, this is to extend the function that people have currently to prevent that rapid decline.
What kind of guidance, if any, have you gotten from the FDA just with regards to the fact that you guys are in the midst of a COVID-19 related study right now? I'm just wondering if they've given any guidance as far as acceleration or anything like that, just with regards to anything COVID related.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. I agree with you, and I think anything COVID related should be given high priority. What's interesting though, and I suppose this is their job. The FDA is still going through the normal mechanisms of evaluation. We've had an initial response for the IND indication looking at treating post-COVID depression. And we've responded, and we are waiting to hear back some additional input. But they're basically on board. They appreciate this. And again, what amazes me, Spencer, is if you look under clinicaltrials.gov, there's not a single trial out there of a medication to treat the post-COVID depression, even though we know 50% of people will get it.
It's so interesting though, because we really don't know a lot about long haul COVID. So we know some things, we're learning, right?
Yeah.
We're learning, and you're speaking to the depression specifically, but there's more to it than that. I'm just wondering what challenges that pose, because I read a great article the other week from it was actually on ESPN about, and the reporter and the subject are both suffering. This college football player are both suffering from long haul COVID, and just the whole thing was about the unknown, right? We don't really know anything yet about this, and it seems to, it affects some, it doesn't affect others. I'm just wondering what kind of unique challenges that pose, because we're as early as we are in understanding COVID, we're arguably even earlier in understanding long haul COVID, because not everyone has gotten it. So I'm just wondering what kind of unique challenges that pose.
Yeah, well, the first thing I just want to make sure is the depression is really just a readout of the inflammation. So it turns out inflammation has as its final common pathway depression. That's why MS has a 50% rate of depression associated with it. That's why COVID has a 50% rate. And it is the inflammation. So the infection with the virus sets up an inflammatory cascade. And you can see that people continue to have elevated signs of smoldering inflammation. And that's what we're trying to put out. We're trying to put out that inflammation.
Okay, got it. Just looking ahead here, Adam, as we wrap up, timelines. Can you give us anything as far as next catalyst? As far you mentioned that data from Johns Hopkins is going to come out soon with regards to the animals. But what else can you tell us as far as timelines for MyMD 1?
So the thing I just want to make sure of, though, is that we have a chance to touch base on the Superior CBD, because that's equally as exciting.
Sure.
So So the Superior CBD is basically a super CBD. When I say super, we just got data back that said it's 8,000 times more potent than working at the CB2 receptor. Not 8, but 8,000 times more potent as an agonist at the CB2 receptor, which is the receptor that we have inside of us that responds to cannabinoids like CBD, and it has the anti-inflammatory properties. It's not the intoxicating effects you get from THC, but the anti-inflammatory effects. And so we're very excited about this. We're actually going to be presenting it next week at the International Cannabinoid-Derived Pharmaceutical Conference, that this is going to be a major contender to treat pain, both acute and neuropathic, epilepsy, especially that associated with inflammation, because this is the CB2 is involved in inflammation, addiction, and neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. So this is a super CBD. It is pure, so it's synthesized, it's not purified. It's potent, as I just described, and it's patented, so it's got, you know, a couple decades worth of protection. So we're really excited about this new variation on CBD.
Unless I'm wrong, to the best of my knowledge, there remains only one CBD-based drug in the U.S. with FDA approval. Is that still the case?
Yeah, Epidiolex, that's correct.
Right.
Out of TW
Okay.
Pharmaceuticals. Yep.
Right. Okay. So we're talking
and it's
about
a purified version. So they take it and they purify it out of cannabis.
Yeah. So my point in bringing that up is like this is like early days, right? We are just scratching. There are many companies besides GW Pharma, for example, MyMD, that's working on this, right? Working on developing CBD derived drugs for epilepsy or any pain, anything, yeah, right? And we're super early days. But so again, just to wrap it up here, and what's the next upcoming catalyst? You mentioned you're presenting next week, but what's the next big catalyst, next presentation timeline, whatever that we can look forward to?
Yeah, so two things. One is, as I mentioned, that we're going to, we've completed phase 1 studies with MyMD. We're going into phase 2 studies this year, both for post-COVID and treating aging, that both at a major academic institution. And, we're presenting the preclinical work on Superior CBD, but I would keep your eyes open in the next month or two for the aging study. I think it's going to hit with a huge bang.
Adam Kaplin, Chief Scientific Officer of MyMD. I'm going to be frank, Adam. Some of the words you said went over my head.
I'm sorry,
but that's the way it goes. That's the way it goes sometimes. Thanks for coming on today, and I look forward to seeing the progress of both these drugs as they get through the pipeline.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, Adam.
Thanks, Spencer.
All right, we're going to switch gears here for a second. We're going from healthcare to sports betting, where I started the day off, right, talking to the CEO of Penn. Now we're going to talk to Scott Burton here in a second, the CEO of FansUnite. And this next company is interesting because it gets to something that we talk about a lot at Benzinga, that our CEO talks about a lot, which is the thing behind the thing. In this case, the thing is sports betting. And this company, in a lot of ways, FansUnite, the thing behind that, the thing that's sort of maybe not so much, in your face advertising as it is like connecting all the different players together. So let's bring Michael Murray on here. And where is he? There he is. Michael,
here. Hey, Spencer.
You're back.
Good segment. I liked that one a lot. That was really solid. Really enjoyed that.
Did you understand all of it? Because I'll be honest, I didn't.
I'm going to be honest as well. I did not either, but I found it really interesting. I've got some notes for later.
Okay, let's bring on Scott Burton, the CEO of FansUnite. Where is he there?
Scott Burton, thanks for joining us. How are you?
Good. How are you doing, Michael?
It's a pleasure to have you on. We're doing great over here. We've got a couple of really good appearances that have been on so far. Excited to talk to you and FansUnite next. Let's get started. Let's dive into the background. As you know, this is kind of an event where we get to talk about your backstory a little bit, kind of talk about the personalities that make up the company, not just your EBITDA and the financials that make up the company, but let's talk about the personalities that are really driving your progress. So tell us a little bit about you. Give us your backstory, your involvement with FansUnite. How did all of this kind of come into play, and give us a little bit of insight there.
Yeah. So mine, I guess this goes back for me back to 2013. So I was in a totally different industry. I was managing a large wood manufacturing facility. Had been with a company for about 10 years. Decided to do a switch. Wasn't quite sure what I was going to do, but I went back to school at that time. Was doing an executive CMA, we called it here in Canada. So it's an accounting designation. So I have a CPA. While I was doing that, I got quite heavily back into the sports betting world as an active participant. So I was had some time. So I was back to betting daily, and had a concept for a betting site. It was a peer-to-peer betting exchange. So a social platform that allowed the users to generate bets and to accept bets and create them. Got some partners on board early, got some interested investors, found our current CTO, Jeremy, who is the co-founder, and we started that company in 2013. So that was an Isle of Man-based company. We were licensed there. Launched the site in 2014, but shortly after we started getting interested in the esports space. Had a team of gamers, so all of our software engineers were quite serious into more PC-based gaming, Counter-Strike, Dota, League of Legends. Saw the news around Twitch at that time, so really started to see what was happening in the esports world, and felt like there was just a tidal wave of activity coming at us for users and the right demographic, the age category. So we put out the first ever daily fantasy site for esports in 2014 called esportspools.com, and got some really good traction. So we had to make a decision if we were going to sort of stay in this, highly competitive world in the UK of traditional sports betting, or try and be an early mover in a new and emerging space. And this was even before Twitch sold to Amazon. That happened later that year. So we talked to the investors, and we decided to move towards esports and build out a full esports betting platform. We launched the first ever dedicated esports betting site in the Isle of Man in 2017. And then we shifted to being more of a technology provider. We knew that all of the big operators, William Hill's, Bet365's, Paddy Powers, we're all going to be adding esports. They could no longer ignore it. So we wanted to be sort of the technology powering those sites. So we really focused on our platform, building out a full white label platform we can license to other people. And that took us to 2020 when our company at the time was called ARHT Entertainment, and we were looking to potentially go public ourselves. Right when COVID hit. So we pulled back on our plans to kind of assess the situation and see what was going to happen in the whole market and the world when COVID came. Had some acquisition offers for our company, ARHT, at the time. I'd known Darius. So Darius is the founder of FansUnite. We were both Vancouver-based guys in the online betting scene. So known each other about 7 or 8 years, started talking, and they had gotten public just before COVID or at the beginning. We're really looking at more acquisitions. They had acquired McBookie, which is a very good UK sports book. Wanted to get a more, bring in a technology piece to the business of FansUnite, and then also have an esports angle. And we were looking at the traditional sports space again, just because of what's going on in North America. So a couple of years ago, we had the PASPA repeal in the US. So sports betting, we all know, is going crazy in the US. Seeing what's happening in Canada. So it just seemed like a really good fit at the time. And so we merged ARHT Entertainment into FansUnite last August. And so in that time, so August till now, which is just over 1 year, as a company, we've completed 3 financings. So we've raised just over $43 million Canadian in the last 12 months. We've gotten additional gambling licenses, so we're truly a global company and a global operator. In December, we received Malta gaming licenses, so we can operate both as a B2B provider in Malta and a direct-to-consumer, so that gives us access to the EU, European Union. We just, about a month ago, received our UK gambling licenses, so we have UK GC licenses. We already had some access to Curacao licenses. We're starting to make some moves into the US, and then we're watching Canada closely. So that kind of brings us to today and a bit of the background.
Amazing. Okay, great background. There's a lot to that story. Obviously, a really, really interesting backstory, and certainly 2020, I would imagine, played as big a part in your business as it did for a lot of people, with things shifting to online and sports betting obviously becoming what it was, with the interest that was already there. But we always want to make sure we're keeping up with our chat and the questions there. Really simple question, kind of about the direct-to-consumer experience. But esports, Quantum asks, can I bet an under and over on teams, or only bet on single players? Can you tell us a little bit about the direct-to-consumer approach there?
Yeah, so we for our esports offering, it really gets you the same experience as you would on traditional sports. So we break it up, but we have pre-match betting, so you're going to get lines and odds on the teams and players potentially, if it's whether it's team-based or single player. So just like you're betting on a traditional sporting event, you're going to bet on who's going to win. You can bet different things like in Counter-Strike, number of maps won. So there's going to be all the things you can bet pre-match. And then what we really focused on when we were working on the platform is we really wanted something highly engaging. So we know that we're appealing to, you know, this 18 to 30-year-old demographic that have grown up with the internet, have grown up with, you know, really fast internet, have grown up with these video games. So we wanted a betting experience that was really engaging, and so we created what we call stream betting. And what that is you can actually watch the streams of the events on our sites, and then we're rolling in bets, you know, every 20, 30, 40 seconds alongside of the stream. So you're actually doing, you know, in-play betting, which is, you know, it's going to be things like in a Counter-Strike again, you know, is there going to be a knife kill in the next round? Who's going to get the first headshot, all of those things. So it's really fast betting activity and keeps people on the site. So it's far more than just the over-under and who's going to win. You know, we can have thousands of bets going on, and it's really one of the unique things about esports that we liked going into it is in-play betting in sports is really popular, especially in well-established markets like the UK or Europe, and it's coming to North America. But all of that is still input information by humans. So something's going on a sports field or court, that's actually data that's input by a human. So there's lag and error potential. The nice thing with esports is everything can come direct from servers. So you can get really high quality, fast information that's accurate and use that for betting. So I think the ultimate betting experience for esports can be far better than what traditional sports can offer in the long run.
Fantastic. Awesome. Okay, and there's another question from the chat, and then I'm going to get back to some of the questions that I have, because I have questions too. We want to make sure we keep up with our chat, but I've got some things I'm curious about. Garrett Eagleton said, is FansUnite going to be available on iOS? What states is it going to be available in the US? What's the status on that currently?
Yeah, so I think I should just step back a bit about sort of the company as a whole and how we're approaching different markets. So obviously FansUnite is the parent company. Within that, we own some brands. So our direct-to-consumer brands, one is called McBookie. That's a UK sportsbook focused on the Scottish market. Then we have the recently launched Vamos GG, which is an esports betting brand focused on Brazil, and we'll look to do that regionally. In North America currently, and primarily the US, we're going in more as a software provider, so as a B2B, so a platform provider. So currently you won't see a FansUnite branded sportsbook in North America. What you will be seeing is sites that are powered by FansUnite. So the first one we announced was in Colorado, a partnership with the Sky Ute Casino, and we'll be powering an esports betting site for them. So anything you see in North America initially would be something that we power. So you won't see a FansUnite iOS. In other jurisdictions, you will see native apps coming for, McBookie, for example. When we move them over to our platform, we'll have native apps. But currently, you wouldn't find anything in North America. And the first state we made an announcement in will be Colorado, and then we'll look to add to that. But again, initially, it'll be other brands that we're powering.
Terrific. Awesome. Well, we love keeping up with questions from the chat. Keep them coming. Obviously, we want to make sure we're engaging the audience. But a couple of other questions, some things we want to dive into on your side. The technology that you license, who are your customers? Can you give us some insight into that technology, what it is, and who are you getting that in front of? What's your main customer base on that side of the business?
Yep. So we kind of look at it a couple of ways, and we really have more of a like a geographic approach and regions and how we're going to attack those. So the backbone of our company is the technology platform, which does everything from the player account management system. So we do the registration, we do the age, identity, location verification, we do the payments, all of that, geofencing. And then so in certain places like Brazil, we saw an opportunity to launch a brand. So we did that ourselves, and it's powered by us. McBookie was a site we acquired, and we would look to potentially move acquisitions over to our platform and our licenses. Then in the North America, when we're looking to work with brands, we're looking to work with people who may have a strong brand presence, but don't own technology and aren't going to go down the path of building out technology. So the casinos, for example, are a good one, and Sky would be our first example, where they have the ability to operate an online skin, they would call it, so they can run online sites, but they don't have the technology to do that. So we come in and we provide them everything they need behind the scenes, and then they're really responsible for generating the traffic, getting the customers, and we do everything else for them. So our main B2B sort of partners are people like that. So I think brick and mortar casinos are going to be a big one going forward, who want to get online. And then anyone looking to bring a brand into North America, but really just wants to focus on the acquisition side of the business and let someone else handle the licensing, the technology, the risk management, all of that stuff is done by us.
Got it. Okay, great information there. Scott, I'm going to take a bit of a broader approach to this next question. This is kind of going to be about the industry in general, also how you relate to it. But can you give us a little bit of insight into esports betting legalization around the world? What's the status right now? What's the acceptance level? What are some of the blockers you're seeing in all parts of the industry? What is your state of view on the betting legalization across the world, not just in this sector?
Yeah, and it really sort of goes to the maturity of the online betting space, but again, around the world. So if we look at somewhere like the UK, which is considered the gold standard of online betting regulation, has been going since I think early 2000s. They treat esports very much like a traditional sport. So us with the ability to offer sports bets, for most cases, allows us to offer esports bets just under the same regulations. We'll use the same data providers in a lot of cases. So, a big news recently was Sport Radar. The Radar Group went public a few days ago. We'll get data from them that includes esports data. So in a mature market, we're seeing them look at it very much like traditional sports, and it's been quite easy. So the Asian market's big and allows a lot of esports betting, Europe, UK. What we're finding in these newer emerging markets, like the US, where it's only been a couple of years since legalization has come at a state level. So one, you're getting state by state treating it differently in the US. But also what I think we're seeing is esports is getting pushed down the decision tree a little bit, because sports is such a huge opportunity right now. So everybody's racing to get their sports book up and is just worried about traditional sports. You're seeing far fewer states addressing esports at the same time. So I think the numbers right now are around 26 states, have either legalized or said they're allowing sports betting to happen. Whether they have it happening or, they may or may not have it happening yet. But of those 26, we've only got about 9 that have really made an esports decision. So I think it's coming, and we're seeing it get addressed more and more. In Canada, we've been involved in some discussions with the provincial lottery corporations, so they're all looking at it now. But again, in Canada, the provincial lottery corporations have been offering sports betting for much longer than the US. So they're at the point where they're looking at esports because sports betting has been well established. So I just think in the rest of the world, it's pretty well accepted. The US is quite far behind, but they will catch up, and so we still think the opportunity is massive. It's just the US is a bit behind just because the eyes on traditional sports right now.
Perfect. No, just a good general update on the market there. Obviously, I'm just as interested in it as anyone else, so it's good to have kind of that update on where we stand across the world. Plans to uplist. Another question from our audience. To the extent that you can speak on it, do you have plans to uplist? What's the timeline? Is there any information or insight you can give us there?
Yeah, I can't speak to timelines or anything at this point, but it's definitely, in our conversations at a board level all the time. We've looked at it. We know what's involved. We know where we sit in the process and what would be required of us. So, if we look in terms of, in Canada, TSX Big Board, or in the US, a NASDAQ, we meet the requirements. It's just, we don't have any immediate plans to do it. What I've been telling people is, and I said in the beginning, we've been a merged company for 12 months. So I came down as CEO when we did the merge. In that time, we've done 3 large financings. We did the merge. We've upgraded on the OTC twice. We've gotten 2 major gambling licenses in that time. Announced a few deals. So for the next couple of months, we're just focused on executing on all the things we've announced and the deals we have and getting sites live. We've got B2B sites coming live. So for a few months, that's really what we're focused on. And then I think we'll come into next year looking more seriously at what the plans are around where we're listed.
Terrific. Okay, great update there as well. I do see a couple of other questions from the audience. I'm going to try and get to those in the time that we have allotted and remaining. But another question from our end as well. Cash on the balance sheet. Again, to the extent that you can speak to this, what are you leveraging cash reserves for in terms of growth, development? What are kind of top priorities for you guys in terms of how you're leveraging cash?
Yeah, we're in a good cash position right now. So we're probably around 36 million Canadian cash. We have a significant amount of warrants out there that would to be exercised as well. Revenues have been ramping well. So we have not been really eating into the cash. The reason we did another financing was really to try and be a bit more active and have the ability to go out and do some acquisitions. So we've been trying to look at some of those opportunities, and we felt we needed to have a better cash position to take advantage. So that's a lot of what the cash was for. But other than that, we are ramping up on the operational side as well. So we, since the merge, I think we've probably doubled the team. We'll probably add significantly to the team as well, and that's around the world. There's a few more licenses we'll probably look at. And then as we move forward with McBookie, there's going to be a bit more marketing spent on our direct-to-consumer sites. So, we got some operational plans, but a large portion of it was to make sure we had cash available to take advantage of any M&A opportunities that come.
Fantastic. No, that played really well into one of our audience's questions too about M&A or gradual growth and what you're looking for as far as organic growth on that end of things. So good update on that as well. Now I'd like to look a little bit longer term. I love to do this at the end of all of our segments, and obviously we're drawing close to time, but talk to me about the future of FansUnite. Let's look long-term, 30,000 foot view. What excites you? What are you looking forward to? What are some big developments that you're going to be pressing on through the rest of this year, leading into 2022? What should our audience be on the lookout for from FansUnite? What's coming up next?
Yeah, I think the exciting thing for us right now is we have our first B2B sportsbook announced, and will be coming. We have more, so that's the most exciting thing coming. One of 2 or 3, I guess, but one of them is getting our B2B platform live with traditional sports, with casino, and our esports. I think that will be a major catalyst for us in the industry. So as people look for software platforms, which they are right now, because a lot of them are being acquired by big players, I think we're going to see a significant change in the interest in what we provide and in the North American space. So I think we'll see a lot of interest there. And then the next one is, we have talked a bit about our Ascot game side of the business. So developing our own casino games, our random number generated games tailored to more of the 18 to 30-year-old demographic. We recently announced Mike Lee as our VP of Gaming. That is moving along quickly. We were aiming to have 10 games this year. We're very much still aiming to have that. So once we get our portfolio of games up, I think then we'll see those games rolling out to a lot of distributors. So the two big things for us is the B2B platform going live in a number of places, North America and Europe, and then our games coming on board. So that's the exciting part, is we have all that to come. The catalyst for us is I think we'll see those first launches in the US will be a major one for us. And then hitting about the 7 or 8 games in the portfolio live that we can go and attract some large game aggregators and get those out. Those are a couple of the big ones for us.
Awesome. Well, certainly looking forward to seeing the involvement with the U.S. audience as well. Obviously very exciting. And then one other quick question I know we got from our audience as well. Any updates to the GLI 33 testing and certification? Do you have any insights on that? Anything you can share?
Yep. So we're doing a number of things with GLI at the same time. And so it's just a matter of shifting which ones we're doing when. So GLI 33 is underway. It hasn't been a requirement yet for any of the deals that we have on the go in the US or so we're doing that more as a preemptive thing. GLI 33, for people who don't know, is a testing standards from Gaming Laboratory International around wagering platforms that we expect a lot of the states to adopt or have adopted. So we're doing that to get ahead of anything in the future for us in North America. So that's underway. Before the end of the year is the plan still. But we are doing GLI 19, which we sort of pushed up the priority list. And GLI 19 is more specific to the games. So these RNG games we're creating. So we've been focused more on getting those through GLI 19 as we produce the games and keep moving GLI 33 along at the same time. Games are being done as they're produced, and then GLI 33 continues. So the thing about GLI 33 is it's really it was really developed by GLI as a response to what's going on in North America. We have already gone through technical audits for our platform in the Isle of Man, in the UK, in Malta. So we've been through a number of technical audits, so we're not concerned there. It's just more of the process and the paperwork and everything involved, but ongoing this year and not required for any of the deals we have at the moment.
Got it. Well, Scott, Burton, we answered a lot of questions from the audience. We got a lot of engagement, a lot of good updates from you on the market in general and about FansUnite. It's been wonderful having you on. This has been fascinating. Thank you so much for joining us today. Yeah, thanks for having us again. Appreciate it. Absolutely. Scott Burton, the CEO of FansUnite. Wonderful segment there. Let's get Spencer Israel back on. It's been a while since we've seen his face. Hey, Spencer.
I'm here. Hello. That was a cool one. That was a cool one. I think it's like, we're not just talking esports. We're not just talking betting. We're talking the middle. And as I said at the top, the thing behind the thing, right? He said it at the very beginning. They transitioned from being just a straight up provider to like the technology provider, right? Because they saw everybody else was going to come in with their own offering. So now they're the technology, they're the thing behind the thing, which is always interesting. So, and I love he gave us like a general kind of update too on where the legalization is at all across the board. It was excellent. Yeah, really good segment. All right, I'll see you in a little bit here. It is time to keep rolling with our next speaker here. Art Smith, the CEO. Whoa, what is that question in the chat? I don't even know what that means. Who's controlling the screen right now? Okay, Art Smith, CEO of Digirati Technologies. I see him here backstage. Let's get Art Smith on. Some nice soothing music. Art, good morning. How are we doing today?
Hey, we're doing well, Spencer. How are you?
Doing well. Let's just start with the easy question, the obvious question. Explain to us Digirati Technologies. I know the company is a product of a merger. So explain how we got here.
Yeah. So, well, Digirati's been around for some time. The predecessor was ATSI Communications.
Okay.
That's how we were formerly known. That company, ATSI, listed on the American Stock Exchange back in the day. And that was a different telecom strategy. It was a telecom business model. ATSI was focused on cross-border communications between the U.S. and markets in Latin America that were deregulating and demonopolizing. Built that company up successfully, again, listed it on the Amex. Went through some transitions in the telecom turmoil of the past when the internet bubble burst, and came out as a VoIP carrier, which led to what we're doing today. So we are you probably heard the term UCaaS, Unified Communications as a Service, cloud communications. That's what we do. We specialize in serving the small and medium-sized business market. We feel that market is drastically underserved. The incumbents and the larger national players are just not doing a good job, in our opinion, of taking care of those small to medium-sized business customers. And we're here to do a better job and grow market share.
It's funny you mentioned telecom turmoil of the past. I just think back to like growing up because my dad worked for AT&T, and then he worked for Luxton, and then he worked for Avaya, and it was like, oh my goodness, right?
You're a little younger than me.
But, yeah. No. But can you speak?
You experienced it.
When you say telecom turmoil of the past, can you for people that don't know what that means?
We don't like to talk about those 2 or 3 years. They were really difficult times, but it was. Back when, some of the names you mentioned, Nortel, ceased to exist during that time, which was unbelievable to all of us veterans in the industry. It's like, how could that happen? And but it was pretty bad, and there was a lot of other companies that had difficulties during that time. I could rattle off a lot of names, Spencer, but the positive thing is our company actually survived that. We survived that turmoil, which I think is a credit to our management team, but we got through that, and then we realized that we couldn't stay as a legacy provider, right? Which a lot of these companies that went out of business were focused more on legacy telecom infrastructure, and we were, in the early days, we moved to VoIP technology, which was kind of the first wave of that transformation in our industry.
So you mentioned VoIP, voice over internet protocol. Just explain that for those watching that don't even know what that is.
Yeah. So look, the best way I can describe that is, most businesses and most consumers have used the legacy telecom network that's been around for 100 years, right? Believe it or not, a lot of that infrastructure was deployed many years ago, and all of us have used it for many years, right? All of that communication over that legacy infrastructure has migrated to the internet, the cloud, right? So when I refer to that, again, legacy infrastructure, that's what I'm talking about. That old copper that's still, believe it or not, probably in your neighborhood, you still have copper in the ground.
Probably.
Maybe using it for internet, but all that's shifting right towards the internet. And that started occurring back in, early 2000, like 2003, 2004. Infrastructure started migrating to VoIP technology, right? And we were a player in that space. We cut our teeth in the early days, learned that technology, which really ended up, it became what we are today, right? 100% cloud-based communications for businesses.
Okay, so explain that transition then, because the cloud is a relatively new phenomenon, and not new, but relatively new in the scheme of things. So explain that transition then to being just what you are now, which is basically an entirely cloud-based company.
That's a good question or a good request, because actually in our presentation we have a slide about this, right? And I think it's important the average investor understand this. So really you can break down what's occurred over the last, say, 20 years into 3 different phases. Okay, phase 1 was, again, as I described, when that legacy infrastructure, that copper in the ground, that old telecom technology went by way of the dinosaur, and then we moved to the internet for voice communications to get a call right from point A to point B. So if you were making a call across the United States or across the world, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, there was a good chance that went over legacy infrastructure, right? Today, and as we approach 2005 and beyond, that communication started going over the internet. Okay, versus that old technology. Okay, so that migration started happening in phase one. In phase two, businesses started realizing, primarily the Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 businesses, they said, look, we've got this legacy infrastructure now within our business, right? They had an old PBX in the closet, right? Somewhere, old phone system in the closet that may be connected, to a VoIP network. But at the end of the day, their local infrastructure within that business was legacy, right? Is legacy technology. So they started migrating that or replacing that with VoIP or cloud-based technology within their local infrastructure in that business, right? So that was kind of phase two of the evolution. And we're now, we're well into that, but there's a lot of opportunity there. That's the space we're playing in. And then you get into phase three, which is really now integration of your cloud-based communication network with third-party systems, whether it's Microsoft Teams. It could be NetSuite. We announced recently that we integrate with NetSuite. We Salesforce, right? We integrate with CRMs like Salesforce. So to your point about the cloud, as businesses start living in the cloud, right? They may start with their communication system, but then they typically go to some other cloud application to help run their business. They need that integration, right? So that's phase three, and that's just getting started, and that's another a growth opportunity for us, right, in terms of our product line and solutions that we offer.
Let me ask another really obvious question: is can you think back to last year? What was the period of like March to call it September? What was that period like for you? Because everybody was forced to go remote, and that led to an increased need in anything that enabled remote work, which you do.
Well, we were pretty busy, Spencer, and we don't want to capitalize on a pandemic like that, but we take pride that we were there to help our customers, our business customers, stay in business during the pandemic. Because exactly what you're saying occurred, right? They realized that, we've got to now let our employees work remotely. Our technology allowed them to do that. They could be anywhere on any device, right? As long as they had a broadband connection. And so that worked out well for our customers. We were very busy helping them go remote. In some cases, if they were just partially remote and they needed to get more employees out in a remote working environment, we helped with that. But we also, I think, at a macro level, I think it was kind of an awakening for a lot of the businesses out there that, hey, they've got to go move in this direction at some point. And there's still a high percentage of small and medium-sized businesses that have not done that. So it's a good opportunity for us to be there and help them with that transition to the cloud.
Yeah. Everyone sort of reflects that sentiment. We're like, well, you don't want to capitalize, but also like this is sort of what our company was made for.
Just to add to that, Spencer, real quick, our team. I told our team this. I'm like, look, this is something you can feel good about, right? I mean, you're helping that business stay in business, right? That's still occurring to this day, right? But it was definitely we were very busy, put it that way, between March and September, October.
So Digirati, let's talk about your sandbox a little bit. You're competing with companies that we know, the companies like Ring Central, companies like Vonage. At the top of our conversation, you talked about the fragmentation of the market. Can you explain exactly why the market is so fragmented, where you've sort of tried to get in there?
Okay, yeah. So let's go back to when we kicked off this business model, right? We kicked it off early 2016, right? And when we looked at the landscape, Spencer, we realized a few things, or recognized a few things. Number one is that, again, the SMB, the small and medium-sized business customer, was underserved. Okay, you mentioned a few of the national players. You mentioned Ring Central. There's Vonage, 8x8. Look, they've got great technologies. They do a good job. But they're all moving up market, right? And then the incumbents, the AT&Ts and Verizons of the world, like to play in that Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 space. Well, that doesn't help the small to medium-sized business. That's a higher touch sale. It's a higher touch deployment. They're looking for that local touch, and that's where we come in, right? We want to make a difference there, right? So again, we realized early on that there was a lot of opportunity in the space to serve the small and medium-sized business. When we first kicked off this plan, I was out in the street talking to customers, talking to partners, really understanding their pain points. And at the end of the day, if you can understand their pain points and come up with solutions, you're going to get business, right? And that's how we kicked this off. So great opportunity there, or to grow organically. I think right now on a global basis, it's valued at, that our UCaaS space is valued at $38 billion. It's expected to grow to $169 billion over the next 7 years. So that gives you an idea of the growth.
Wow.
Now, the other thing we realized early on as we were kicking off this business model was that the market was very fragmented. And as we looked at the landscape and looked at the market, we found that these smaller regional service providers that do what we do, UCaaS, cloud communication services to businesses, were actually doing a better job than the bigger guys, right? The national guys, the incumbents. And we found all these smaller operators between 2 and 10 million in annual revenue, running their business profitably. I want to point out, our business and businesses like ours, our smaller peers that I'm referring to. It's recurring revenue, typically with a small and medium-sized business under a long-term contract. So we realized that, hey, this is a great way to grow, right? We could use our pubco. And if we consolidate these smaller operators and keep that local touch, regional touch within our culture of the company, and again, behind the service we provide to that business customer, this could be really successful, right? Again, the small and medium-sized business market's underserved, and the market's growing. So great opportunity there. So we embarked on this two-pronged approach to growing both organically and through M&A.
I'm curious about the feedback you've gotten from your customers, the small and medium-sized business. In some respects, it's been a weird year for everyone. I tend to think, generally speaking, I don't know if this necessarily applies to your industry, but we've seen over the last year or so that the big get bigger, and everybody else is sort of, I don't know, struggling. Right. That's a broad generalization. It's not true for everyone, not true for every industry, obviously, but across the board, whether you can look at technology companies, whatever, stock market, whatever, the big get bigger and they're eating a bigger piece of the pie. I'm just curious what you've seen from your customer base in the last year and a half, and how it's traced back to you.
Yeah, well, look, you bring up a valid point, and but it's a big pie. It's a huge pie, right? Sure. And look, if we capture a sliver of that market share that I referenced earlier, that $169 billion market opportunity over the next 7 years, we'll build a very successful company, right? I just think we got to stay focused on the small to medium-sized business market. I think we got to stay focused on our strategy, right, in terms of consolidating these smaller operators that have done a great job of serving their small to medium-sized business customers in their market. If we stick to that, and again, are disciplined about that, we're going to build this company successfully. And there's a lot of pipeline. There's a lot of acquisition opportunities out there, Spencer. It's I can't go into the detail on what we're doing, but we're very active in there, and have just a lot of opportunities coming our way. And so we feel that we can carve out that, again, when I say a sliver of that market share, carve that out within our segment of the market, that small and medium-sized business. Both through the M&A and an organic plan that we have, I think we're gonna do well, right? It's not rocket science, and that's the one thing I tell everybody. This is pretty straightforward. We're stacking recurring revenue, building, finding synergies in every transaction, every acquisition that we do, and at the end of the day, it translates into improved EBITDA, improved cash flow, improved profits.
Right. You can't go into the pipeline specifics. I get that, but let's look ahead for a second here, and what the next big catalyst investors should, or potential investors should, have on their radar.
So look, I can't go into what. Here's what I can do. I think I can state some of our previous goals that we've communicated to the investment community. We're working on always active in the M&A space.
Okay.
We certainly want to get some things done before the end of the year, and also going into next year. You'll probably ask about the uplist. That's part of our stated goal that we have. And really what we want to get to is where we have not only our debt facility with Post Road Group, which we announced November of last year, when we completed 2 acquisitions simultaneously of Nexagy and Active PBX. We secured a $20 million facility with the Post Road Group. They're a $1 billion fund out of Stamford, Connecticut. That really liked our business model, like where we were headed with it, and they got behind us on the debt side. Now we got to balance that out with equity. Obviously, getting a currency on a primary exchange would be an ideal situation for us, because we believe with the combination of that debt and equity, with a real currency on a primary exchange, we're going to be able to really roll, no pun intended, with our game plan, right? Consolidation roll up strategy.
And the uplist is still on track for end of the year. It's still on target.
That's our goal. Again, if people look at our filings, they'll see that we filed an S1 and we've done everything in order to get that teed up. We've we announced this actually last year. We engaged Maxim Group to help us with laying out the path to get to that objective. It was important for us to complete the transactions we completed last year, get some of those synergies tucked in, and then of course make progress on other opportunities as well.
Would you have to do some kind of a reverse split or something like that? I would imagine.
Well, we will, right? Okay. That's kind of part and parcel of the process of getting uplisted. Right. We haven't set that stake in the ground just yet on what that looks like. We certainly would like to get some support in the market, right? I'm a little biased, but I think we're certainly undervalued compared to our peers, right? I mean, anybody that does their homework or does their research will see that, right? So we think we've got an opportunity for some upside on the stock, but again, that's me, right? You probably hear that from all the CEOs out there. But we're doing a good job. Bottom line, Spencer, we've gone over what 3 years, 3 fiscal years. We've gone from just under 200,000 in annual revenue to a run rate of 15 million, and done that, in a relatively short period of time without that currency that we would like to have on a primary exchange. It's a very fragmented market. There's thousands of service providers out there that I've described that fall into that category of small service providers, right? That do what we do, right? Between 2 and 10 million in annual revenue. Why do we target those companies? Because they're too small to attract a private equity group. They're too small to attract a larger pubco. They're not going to move the needle for those kind of groups, right? So it's a great opportunity for us to come in and potentially make those service providers part of our family, right? So we think we're on the right track.
Yeah, it's just interesting, someone like you who's been in the industry for a while. It's always interesting to see like how you've evolved with the times, with the technology, because as you said, there have been a lot of casualties of this industry, right? The telecom industry has been bumpy, to say the least, right? Over the last couple of years. Any investor knows this just by looking at AT&T, right? I mean, so you in a sense you're old, but you're new because you've only been at the cloud model for a couple of years, right? So it's this interesting dynamic at play. Art Smith is the CEO of Digirati Technologies. Art, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you, Spencer.
All right. It is 11:35. I just want to take a quick moment here before we bring on our next speaker, who is at a pretty cool company, I will say. I will be honest, when I first saw this company and what they did, when I first saw what they did, I didn't realize there was any public companies that did what they do. And I wasn't sure on like the real world use cases, but we're gonna get with the CEO of this company. I'm not gonna spoil what they do, but I will say you've seen what they do in the headlines in the last, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years. It's a very futuristic type of thing. And COVID may have accelerated the shift or the use of this technology. You might roll your eyes. You might roll your eyes, but very often, and I am that way. I'm a very skeptical, glass half empty person. I think our next speaker will fill the rest of the glass up, or attempt to fill the rest of the glass up to be a full glass, and understand that this technology, maybe there's more that meets the eye. There is a pun in there which you'll understand in a few minutes. But before I bring Larry on, I just want to take a second and plug our events calendar. Guys, we are chock full of events coming up in the next couple of weeks, couple of months. Okay. I'm going now to benzingaevents.com. That's what's up on the screen. Our next conference is actually next Wednesday, the Electric Vehicles Conference. Okay, EVCon, what we're calling it. Let's get that off the screen. We're talking with people from GM. We're talking here. The whole list of people, speakers that we have is right here. Right, I went to benzingaevents.com and I clicked on the EVCon. We're talking to Archimoto. We're talking to Worksport. Again, a full day of content. Next, is it Wednesday? I don't know dates. See, I didn't even remember. It's the 22nd. Pretty sure it's Wednesday. Right. I'm checking my calendar. It's Wednesday. Okay. Yeah. Next Wednesday, a full day of EV content. It will be available to watch for free, but we will charge everybody to watch the replay. So you're going to have to watch it live or pay for it after the fact. So EVCon next Wednesday, all day right here, youtube.com/Benzinga. After that, we've got our healthcare small cap conference, the end of the month, 2 days, the 29th and the 30th. And then perhaps the conference that I'm most excited for. Because it's our next in-person conference. Well, it's actually a hybrid. It's both. It's virtual and in-person. The Cannabis Capital Conference, October 14th and 15th. The Marriott Marquis in Times Square, New York City. I'll be there. Michael Murray, I hope, will be there. You, I hope, will be there as well. Again, a 2-day event talking all things cannabis, the industry, not just a plant, right? But like the investment thesis, the investment appetite, the deal flow appetite, M&A, trends, what is going on in Washington. So many questions. We couldn't fit it into one day. So 2-day event, Benzinga Cannabis or bzcannabis.com. 26 days, 12 hours, 21 minutes, and now 25 seconds away from now. Very exciting. Again, you can go to bzevents.com to get the full calendar. Our event schedule, guys, is hybrid. See what I did there? Always thinking. You know what? Actually, that's a good idea. Sorry, whoever mentioned that. We should probably change the. It says hybrid with a HY. We should probably change that to HIGH. That's a really good idea. I didn't even think about that until just now. But thanks for bringing that up here. Let's give credit to whoever said that again. That was Hex 24 Pony 214 Pony. We're gonna fix that. We're gonna fix that. Hybrid. I'll get that done. All right, that's enough of that. Let's bring on Michael Murray, MM. And Michael, good to see you again. A long time no see. This next company, I gave a bit of a tease beforehand, is like so futuristic that it's almost hard to believe that like we're actually like there. You know what I mean?
You feel like you're in the Matrix? You feel like you're living the future
right
now?
It feels like we're in the Matrix, no doubt. No doubt. It feels like we're in the Matrix with a company like this. And I've teased them enough. Do you want to share who's coming on?
We've teased him enough. Let's give him the real thing. Larry O'Reilly, the CEO of ARHT Media, joining us next. Larry, what's going on?
Hey, I'm great. How are you doing?
Doing well. It's a pleasure to have you on. Spencer really hyped us up coming into this. A lot of teasing, a lot of hints about what we're going to be talking about. But this is going to be really, really interesting. Excited to break into this segment. You guys have a fascinating company. A lot of really interesting things you're working on. We have some great questions lined up for you. But as you know, this event and what we do is not just talking about the company and the exciting things you're doing. We will get to that. But we want to get a little bit of background on you. Fascinating company, fascinating backstory. Give us a little bit of your background. How did you come to be involved with the company? What is the genesis of all this? How did it start? And give us a little bit of background into you personally.
Well, my professional background primarily was at the IMAX Corporation, and I was the president of worldwide sales for most of my tenure there, and ran film distribution as well. And, you know, there are so many parallels between the IMAX story and the ARHT Media story. When I joined IMAX, the company had just recently been sold, actually the very month that I joined, for about $70 million. And at the time, IMAX had 70 theaters in museums and science centers and aquariums around the world, and really we're in the documentary business. The company was acquired by some investment bankers from New York with a view to exploit 3D, because IMAX had 3D in movie theaters at a couple locations, and the reception was absolutely huge for that. And they thought, if we can commercialize 3D, I think there's a real business here. It was a consumer experience that everybody loved when they actually experienced an IMAX theater, but the business model was broken. And so they raised a couple $100 million with a view to build out some 3D theaters and to produce some 3D movies. And then at one point made a pivot and said, okay, what we really need to do is have IMAX theaters be the anchor of the largest multiplexes around the world. And at the time, there was a multiplex boom going on, first in America, and then that actually went globally. So as the president of worldwide sales, I was responsible for the build out with my team. And we went from 70 locations to about 1,400 locations when I left. And as I said, the company had been sold for $70 million when I joined. And at one point, we had a market cap over $3 billion. And we actually had a business model that made sense, where we would earn ongoing and recurring revenues from the studios, for the shelf space, and from the exhibitor partners, because we did participation deals with them. I got introduced to ARHT Media, a company that had been running for a couple of years. It was co-founded by the entertainer Paul Anka and a Canadian businessman by the name of Rene Barty, with a view to doing holographic shows of major entertainers. That they wanted to do a Frank Sinatra show at the Wynn Hotel. Unfortunately, Steve Wynn didn't buy into their vision at the time, and so they had to pivot the business and look for other opportunities. And then they got into large-scale event production. So they were producing Tony Robbins shows, Gary Vaynerchuk, Dr. Stephen Hawking, and they would capture them in one part of the world and beam them anywhere else in the world, where they would appear live and in 3D and lifelike with very low levels of latency. The only downside to the business model, much like IMAX, was there were too few locations to actually do this. And so the cost of delivery was pretty much prohibitive to a broader audience. The gentleman by the name of Con Steers, who was our sales agent when I was expanding the IMAX business into Latin America, he was based in Brazil. He called me one day after I'd left IMAX and said, listen, you got to see this new technology from ARHT Media. This hollow presence technology will absolutely blow your mind. And I went into an office building downtown Toronto. They beamed somebody in from LA, and I was having a conversation with somebody who was 6 feet away from me, as if the person was there in the room. And I was on my way to a movie conference in Barcelona at the time, and so I met with the studio heads of distribution and marketing. I said, what if you could take Tom Cruise and beam him into 6 locations at once? Or have him being captured in London and beam him into Belfast and beam him into Dublin and beam him and localize the marketing? Would that be cool? And they go, we love that idea. And same with the exhibitors. And so from there, I got involved in the business, and I took over as the CEO about 3.5 years ago.
Amazing. That's a great backstory. And like Spencer said, I'm just going to echo him here. It's fascinating to think that we actually live in these times where these things are actually happening. I feel like there's so many movies and books and things written about for, the last 150 years about some of this technology becoming doable and actually real. And it's actually on our doorstep now, which is really fascinating. So let's dig in just a little bit deeper on that and talk about some of the use cases for holographic technology. There's a lot of different avenues I'm sure this can be used, but what do you personally see some of the biggest distribution or application uses of holographic technology being in the future?
Well, we have multiple use cases. You're 100% right, but like every technology, typically you start with large enterprise organizations who have larger budgets and also have business issues that you can solve. And the first business issue that we solve is we get people to meetings that they couldn't get to otherwise. So there might be an important meeting in London, but you're stuck in New York. Well, we can get you into that meeting in London, whether it's a conference, whether it's a sales meeting, whether it's a PR event or a press event there, whether you're doing training to a team that's over there. We can also capture you in one location and beam you to multiple locations. So for example, in the pharmaceutical industry, which is one of our strongest verticals, we are used primarily for medical education. Typically with most large pharma companies, there's one person or maybe two who are the product experts, and they have thousands of people who might be selling that medicine or vaccine on a global basis. So they're in infinite demand. So large organizations will actually use our technology where we can capture the person in one location, beam them out to multiple locations at the same time with full two-way interaction. So full Q&A with all of these locations. And then all of those locations are now networking with one another in a brainstorming Q&A, and then they get their net promoter scores, which when these presenters are presenting in person are in the mid-50s. When they present holographically, it goes into the 90s.
Got it. And now this is kind of just piggybacking off the current state of affairs in the world, but I would imagine, and obviously, God forbid, if we were to see, another wave of COVID or another, situation similar to what we've had over the last 18 months, technology like this would become even more applicable, being able to bridge those gaps of distance in times of, sanitary measures and things like that. Technology like this could, I would imagine, very well be a solution to people not being able to be physically with each other, and probably be a solution to keeping everybody safe from a second wave, if such a thing would ever happen. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, COVID was a bad news story and a good news story for our company. And in the end, will be a very, very good news story. As I mentioned, the company's history was on the event side, but our business model and what we're transitioning to is actually having permanent installation at enterprise organizations where they have a tool that they can use every day. They can use it for training. They can use it for sales meetings. They can use it for town halls. They can use it for C-suite, team meetings on a globalized basis. And the economics on a permanent installation are incredibly compelling. I mean, an enterprise organization can install both a full capture and a display for under $100,000 per location. And for $14,000 a year, unlimited transmissions. So when we talk to some of these enterprise organizations and we mention those kinds of numbers, they go, oh my goodness, we can probably recoup our CapEx in about 3 months on saved travel costs. Secondly, prior to COVID, I would approximately 30 to 35% of the inbound inquiries, the number one reason they were reaching out to us was to reduce their carbon footprint. If you don't have to get on a plane to go to Hong Kong for that meeting from New York, the carbon footprint saving is significant. And every organization around the globe of any size have been made commitments to reduce their carbon footprint. We will be carbon neutral by this date. And we are a very measurable way to achieve that. The third area where there's significant benefit as well, and this is really COVID related, the big debate now as we start working our way through the vaccines and people are going back to work is how many people will go back to work and how many days a week will they be going back to work? And there are a lot of people out there who like working from home. They, if they can eliminate that 1 hour commute each way, that's time that they have with their family. Similar with us. If you don't have to fly to Hong Kong for that meeting in New York, but you can beam in and do your 45-minute presentation for that important conference, that might be 3 nights you don't have to spend away from your family. So that work-life balance is a really, really important thing in attracting and keeping, key employees. So all of those benefits accrue to us. The other thing I think that's important to mention is as we build out our network of locations, permanent locations, we can bring down the cost of delivery and just make it so much easier to do. So as an example, on the weekend, we had a medical conference that was in Hong Kong on Sunday. On Saturday night, we were beaming in doctors from Boston and New York out of our new partnership locations with WeWork. We struck a deal with WeWork earlier this year for 100 locations worldwide. We're in the process of the first wave of rollout, which is 17 locations all around the world, actually. And now we're actually putting them into use. Having those permanent locations there will allow us to deliver the product at a lower price and make it way more convenient for customers to actually, use the technology.
Absolutely. Fascinating. It's so exciting to hear about that. And obviously, like you said, the medical conference, I think, is fascinating. I was actually reading about that medical conference, and the fact that, people are able to be physically present even when they're not is just an awesome concept. Want to make sure we're keeping up with our audience. Of course, we did get a couple of questions here before we move on to what we have. First of all, I'm seeing some compliments on your glasses. There's a lot of love for the eyewear right now. People really like the look. Another question too from our audience is the idea that companies are going to be buying the equipment or renting the equipment. What are the barriers as far as expense and availability? Can you kind of expand on that a little bit?
For sure. So we have a rental program, and typically the cost to capture a person live in one location, beam them live anywhere else on the planet is around $25,000 to do that. If you can come into a WeWork location and beam to another WeWork location, we can actually bring that price down. When I started at 3 years ago at this company, the entry price to do an event like that on a rental basis was $90,000. Now we're talking 25, now we're talking 20, and maybe even a little bit lower as we go on. And as companies commit to bundles of activations, we can drive that pricing down even lower. So we have that as a rental. On the sales side, as I mentioned, the model is about $100,000 to have both capture and display. And not every location needs both capture and display, because typically your expertise is at your headquarters. That's where those are the people you're beaming out to be communicating with your teams at other offices around the world. So, for example, we're working with an organization right now that is just starting a big global network of healthcare, and their expertise is in about 5 of the locations, but they're starting with a network of 15, and they plan to go into the hundreds. And so they said, on those other ones, all we need is the display, because the doctors and specialists that we're going to be using are concentrated in a few locations. So on the display side, it starts at around 25 to 30,000, and then goes up depending on the scale and size of what you're actually doing. And I think it's important to note, we did a big pivot during COVID. When COVID came in, we had a big slate of activations that were set up and running to go that ended up getting canceled. And so we did 2 things. One, we brought an online product called Virtual Global Stage, where people appear fully life-size. They look like the 3D on any kind of a virtual set. And where it gets really, really compelling is we can beam people onto that stage from different parts of the world, where they can communicate with one another and with the audience. And so one of the earlier activations we did was with Novartis, who sponsored a medical event, medical conference that was supposed to happen in Germany. We captured one research scientist who was in Australia, another one that was in Greece, the third guy was in Germany. They all did their presentations. And then at the end, they actually had a panel discussion and interacting with, and from an audience perspective, it looks like a professional television set at a fraction of the cost. And it looks like they're all there in the room together. Novartis reported back to us that other presentations, the average was in the sort of 400 to 500 views. Their presentation had more than 2,000 views. So obviously there's an appetite for more professional presentation and stronger digital communication.
Absolutely. No, exciting to see that too. And I think it speaks for itself when you see the massive level of in the difference in engagement, but also view counts and everything else. It's clear audiences are looking for that. It's really a hot topic. Talk to us a little bit, kind of switching gears here, but talk to us about the revenues of Art Media. What is your revenue stream like? What's current inflows and things like that? Can you speak to the revenue side of the business a little bit?
For sure. So when we took over the business, the first year we doubled the revenue from 800,000 to $1.6 million. And the next year we doubled it again to 3.2 million. We had a plan in 2020 to double it again and maybe add a little bit more. And then COVID came in and really kind of wiped out our events backlog that we had, and we had to concentrate on other things. We're back on track now, and it's looking like the year is going to be north of $5 million. And we expect to more than double that again next year. Earlier this year, we went to the marketplace in February to raise $5 million for growth capital. We needed additional salespeople. We needed some money for some marketing, needed to have some inventory. And we actually were able to raise $7.98 million. So wildly oversubscribed. And we're now just starting to implement that marketing money. So we're redoing our website. We brought in an SEO program. We have a social agency we're dealing with. We have an IR firm. We really weren't doing any IR work in the past as well. And so consequently, our expectation is that we've worked on all of the infrastructure. We now have the right product mix, and we're getting way more repeat business. When we put out our Q2 results, one of the highlights was that 85% of our revenue came from existing clients. As well, we added some pretty darn impressive clients. Most recently, we announced actually about a week ago, one of those clients is NATO. And frankly, if the NATO relationship evolves the way we would hope it evolves, we don't need any other clients. But NATO actually have put a permanent capture and display at their Allied Command headquarters in Norfolk, Virginia. They've also put a similar product at their biggest training center, which is in Germany. And really their goal here is to reduce their travel costs, because they're forever flying people back and forth between America and Germany, and frankly, all the other NATO countries as well. As well, you want access. The gentleman who oversees training within NATO is a 3-star general. He can't be in all the countries at the same time, but he can using our technology. So this week, we actually participated with NATO at the NATO Technology Training Conference, which was in Virginia. And first, I beamed into Virginia from Toronto. I met with 3-star generals. I met with other military leaders from Portugal and Spain and Eastern Europe and the UK. And there's great enthusiasm about the use of the technology to enhance the training as well as reduce costs.
Fantastic. Okay, really interesting. I want to talk about the metaverse a little bit. It's kind of an interesting topic, something I do not understand as well as I probably should. So I'm hoping you can give me a little bit of insight here. But Facebook's been talking a lot about the metaverse. A lot of things floating around out there. I've read a lot about it. Like I said, still undereducated. I do not learn that fast, unfortunately, but it's a really interesting topic. Is the metaverse at all on your radar at Art Media? Is this something in the future? Is this anything you're going to be tied in with at all?
One of the partners that we've done a number of award shows with, and by the way, these award shows have won all kinds of awards. It's interesting that an award show wins awards, but they do actually have brought us an activation in the metaverse. And we're in the process of trying to figure all of that out right now. But the idea of having, virtual people in a virtual environment is not wildly different than what we kind of do day to day. We will play with that a little bit. We're not Facebook or Google or Microsoft and have the budgets, to invest in things that are going to be happening 8-10 years from now. We're focused on really delivering practical solutions to business problems people have. Media events. So for example, UBS has used us the last few years when their biggest media event of the year is called the Year Ahead. And they have their chief investment officer comes in from Europe. They have the CIO from the Americas. And we beam in the CIO from Asia, from Singapore. And she's on a panel. They talk about the business from 10,000 feet. Then she does her presentation on what's going to happen in Asia in the year ahead. And then she does all her one-on-one interviews with the local media. And she doesn't leave Singapore. I mean, that's a perfect example of the types of business things that we're solving every day. And right now, that's really our focus.
Amazing. Larry, drawing close on time. I really, truly wish we had more time with you. It's been fascinating to learn some of these things. I want to ask one more thing on the way out. Again, looking broad term, as we do with, with a lot of the companies we've had on today, what do you see as most exciting coming up for you guys? There's a lot going on here. And the NATO partnership, congratulations on that, by the way. A lot of exciting things on the horizon. What's next? What can our audience look for? What are you personally most excited about in the near to the mid to the long-term future for Art Media?
By far, the most important thing for us right now is the partnership with WeWork. The fact that we're rolling out these 17 locations. We've already installed LA, San Francisco, Seattle, Boston, New York, Miami. We're going to be adding DC soon, Montreal, London, Paris, Barcelona, Tokyo, Shanghai, Beijing, Singapore, Sydney, and Sao Paulo in the first phase is an absolutely game changer for our company and for our clients. Oftentimes we're working with organizations that, like we might be with a big pharma company when we're working with the Americas group. They recommend us to people in Europe, and they say, well, where can we see it? And there was really no place to see it. So this relationship, as we go to 100 locations, and I hope that we go to 200 to 300 to 400 locations with WeWork, this is a pure win-win, and we're doing it as a revenue share. We've committed the equipment and the personnel to run it. They've committed the real estate and some marketing support and some sales support on top of it. This relationship should change our economics in a massive way. These first 17 locations, we're budgeting to generate $2 million in revenue just next year.
Wonderful. So much to look forward to. Really exciting interview. I see some questions about patents that we have in the audience. We did not have enough time to get to them, but ideally we have you back on again soon so you can chat more about those and everything else you guys have coming up. Larry O'Reilly, CEO of Art Media. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Michael. Take care.
Thank you. Have a good one. All right, Spencer Israel, you're back. How are you?
Good. Can you hear me?
I can, loud and clear.
Good.
What did you think about that?
That was, I hope that my tease did it justice. Again, first time I heard that, I was like, what? This isn't real. But it is real. We're in the future.
It's exciting stuff. No, it was great. Like I said, I did not understand enough of that. I need to do some research. Again, I took notes. I'll be looking into it later, but that was awesome.
The first thing I thought of was the Tupac thing from a few years ago, and when like Tupac performed with Snoop Dogg, but and that's why the number one question that I had, which I'm glad you asked, was like, seriously, what are the use cases here aside from Tupac, obviously? But yeah, I mean, we're here. I'm glad you asked about the metaverse because that's the thing I'm interested in. So, probably one of the coolest companies out there. So, great, thank you, Larry. Michael, great job. I have news for you. That was your last interview today.
No kidding.
I'm gonna wrap this up myself, actually. So, thank you for your time, for your co-hosting abilities, and everyone smash the like button for Michael Murray if you haven't already.
Good to be with you.
Our next speaker actually doesn't come on for like half hour or so, 25 minutes. What I'm going to do is bring on Money Mitch. He got dressed up for us, everyone. He's wearing a shirt and tie. Wow.
What's going on, man?
You're so formal.
Hey, it doesn't take much to look good. And when you
see.
look this good, you got to go ahead and do it, baby.
I see. Okay, Mitch, I have not looked at the stock market in 3 hours. What have I'm sure I missed stuff. What have I missed?
Well, at least you have me here to help you guys out. I'm going to do a little bit of a recap here.
Yeah.
I'm sharing my pro here. We could talk about some moves. But first, I mean, let's talk about your Penn interview this morning. You know, we got a little spike out the open, but we are coming down a little bit. I mean, this has to probably do with the overall market. We'll go into that right after Penn here. But as we see, we're coming down a little bit in Penn, but a great interview. I saw you asking some questions on strategy, Spencer. You even threw a fastball there with the NFT question. We didn't really get an answer, but
we didn't.
In my eyes,
it was not an answer.
In my eyes, it was more like it wasn't a no. So, I mean, that at least is a good sign.
He didn't totally throw in the trash, but he did say we're not doing it right now. But you know, the biggest challenge, just so everyone understands, the biggest challenge with those interviews is you've got I can do all the prep in the world and have my list of questions, but the second the interview starts, you get questions coming at you from all over. I got the chat. I got people slacking me. I got Jason texting me. I got Joel who's gonna ask his own random horse racing questions. I got Dennis who loves to just play it by ear and improv, right? So I have my list, I have my preparation, I have my sheet, and then the second it starts, it's barrage of questions. So we can't get to all of them, but we'll definitely get Jason. If you missed it, guys, pre-market prep today, halfway through the show, we had the CEO of Penn National, Jay Snowden, on for a good 20 minutes. We will definitely have him back. Now, all that being said, Mitch, what's doing here in overall market land?
Let's take a look here. Let's take a look at the SPY.
Yeah.
You know, I don't use the futures, but man, we're starting to come on down. We cracked through the support of the multiple days here. And really, I mean, let's take a look here on the 15 minutes so you can see it a little bit closer. We've been just dropping down, but finally finding a little bit of a bottom here near 442. Hopefully we don't break that anymore today. We have a couple wicks there. So I'm starting to see a little bit of a retrace. As we know, it's an option expiration day. So quad witch here. So, I mean, we'll see. I think this could bounce back, and who knows, maybe by at the close, we're already back over here. We'll see what happens in the overall market. The one that looked a little bit more scary to me was the Qs. The Qs took a really hard downturn. But now just finding that bottom, as you guys can see here, went from 378.50s down to about, we had a low here of 373.35. So we'll see if this can, break through that. 373.10s is the low right now. Good reversal sign right here on the 15. The key is not to break that low again. So we'll see if we can get coming back on the Qs. Let's take a look at some stocks. Let's change the tunes a little bit. Let's go to something a little bit more positive. Let's talk a little bit about maybe some reopening, moving on up today. CCL, Carnival moving on up today. Not a bad chart. Look at this 15-minute chart. Not a bad chart, right? Good little flag here action.
Okay. You know what? Yeah. So I think we can summarize the entire day today, and every stock you just looked at in one sentence is they're gonna flip flop, right? They're gonna flip flop into the close. So
yeah, it's going to be a tough day. We'll see what happens. I mean, I think what you're dead on, Spencer. There's going to be some that will end up going red that were green, and there's probably some that were red that might end the day green here. We're getting a lot of chop. Has to do a lot with that options expiration, but we'll see what happens now. What are you thinking about Carnival overall and the cruise lines? I mean, I know that you might not be bullish on the airlines, but what about the cruise lines? What are you thinking?
I've been wanting to go on a cruise. I know that's a bad idea. I probably shouldn't want it. We had someone the other day in was it Power Hour or I forget. I'm sorry, I can't remember what show it was. But I do so many, and he was saying that he just went on a cruise and it really wasn't that great. I totally get that. I probably shouldn't want to go on a cruise now, but I kind of do. As far as the excuse me, as far as the actual cruise stocks, the one thing they've got going for them that the airlines don't is the airlines were waiting for two things to happen, right? The airlines are waiting for general broad-based reopening and recovery of business travel. No one is traveling for business on a cruise, right? Their only thing they're waiting for is a general reopening. They don't have like the other thing hanging over their head of business travel or lack thereof, as we're seeing right now on the airline. So that's why I like the cruise lines more than the airlines. I don't know. It's obvious. It's right. We've seen the people have been quicker to come back to planes than they have been to cruise ships. That's to be expected. But I like, if I had to pick one of the other cruises or airlines, I'd pick cruise lines.
Yeah, I would have to say the same. I've been thinking about it myself. I did hear that you might need to be wearing masks and stuff like that. We'll see what happens really with the cruise lines over the next couple of months. But I myself am looking at one for next year. So who knows, Spencer? Maybe we hop on the boat. We'll see what happens.
I've only ever been on Royal Caribbean. So
okay. I like that one. I gotta say you like the nice boats.
The nice boats. I've never paid for a cruise, man. It's always been with my family. So all right.
Let's just say those are the nice boats.
Those are the family boats. Those are the family boats. Yeah.
We'll call it that.
Yeah. The Carnival is for the young people. The Royal Caribbean's for the family. The Norwegians for the old people. Did I get that right? I mean, maybe I got that right.
Who knows? We'll see what the chat thinks. Let's go ahead. We can transition to another stock that had a good day today. Let's go to TMO. So
Thermo Scientific, is that right?
Yeah.
Or Thermo Fisher? Fisher? What?
Fisher.
I'm seeing in the pro here. I've got a headline. I've got my newsfeed open.
There you go.
They gave some guidance. Looks like they gave some guidance. They gave fiscal year EPS guidance, almost. We'll call it $1.50 above the estimate, and they gave sales guidance again for the year about $6 billion above the estimate. So hey, we like guidance beats. How's TMO doing today?
It's ripping. It's up 8.4%, and I mean for an over $500 now over $600 stock. I mean that's a pretty big move on up in one day. Let's take a look at the 15-minute, and as you can see, still pushing on the highs right now. It's right now traded up to a high of 607.79. Let's see if we can get above that level, get to 610. Let's see what we see further out. Is there anywhere to kind of find a level on this thing?
Not when you're at all-time highs.
Not when you're at all-time highs. Look at that weekly chart, man. Look at this thing was what? I mean, we were trading in the 160s for a long time in 2017, and then this thing just started really moving from 2020. It was down towards we got a low of 250. Wow. Now 607. That's what might be why you want to go to some strong stocks during that pandemic time.
You know what this is, everyone? This is the demographics trade. This is just a healthcare trade. This is everybody's getting older, and we need. This is the same thing as Intuitive Surgical, right? ISRG, right? Like pull up the chart of ISRG versus TMO. I bet you they look pretty similar. This is the trade of everyone is getting old, and we need more medical everything, right? We need more. We need more equipment. We need more diagnostic products. We need more lab. We need more all of it. We need more of all of it. So here, I'll bring a chart up. That's what this trade is, right? It's just the demographics. Everyone's getting old. We need more medical stuff. That's what this trade is here. Let me get my ISRG going, because ISRG is also. Well, look at these charts. Look at this. Look at this. Identical. People are getting old, Mitch.
Hey, boomers need to take care of.
Buffalo by bicycle.
To get taken care of.
Buffalo, yeah, exactly. Quantum diapers and nursing homes. More of that too. More of that too. Diapers and nursing homes.
Hey,
Buffalo.
Just put me in the Jimmy Buffett nursing home, though.
The Margaritaville?
Yeah, the Margaritaville. You know it.
Yeah, but Buffalo says his buddy works for TMO and he's been telling him all about it. Yeah, I mean, hey, people are getting old.
Well, this makes sense because if you look at healthcare plans today, they were up today. So, I mean, it's giving you a little bit of a sign.
Someone find us some more here. Let's go to some peers. Find us some more names in this sector right now. I went to the peers tab in Benzinga Pro. Does anyone jump out to me? PKI, Perkins Elmer. Isn't that like an insurer? What else do we have here? You can look at like there are some ETFs. Let me think of the what are the medical products ETFs? I can't think of any. Let me look it up real fast.
Well, while you do that, I'll
medical devices. That's right. IHI. That's the one. IHI. Yeah. I just had to look it up real fast. I cheated. IHI is your medical devices ETF, right? Look at that thing.
Okay.
Look at that thing. What a beast.
All right.
And let's also look at the top holdings. I don't know what the top holdings are. I'm sure TMO is in it. I'm sure ISRG is in it.
Okay. I can see maybe B-Fly. I'll be looking at some of those. There's some new products coming out, man.
Here, let's go to I'm not gonna look it up right now, but yeah, okay. That's enough of the medical supplies.
All right, let's go ahead. So healthcare plan stocks were also up, but we can kind of transition into some other movers, looking into some other areas.
Wait,
so
okay, I'm sorry, go ahead. You finished with your list. I have a few questions about what I'm seeing here today.
Okay. Yeah, no, by all means. So next one I wanted to get into was LCID, but what are you seeing on those scanners?
I want to look at Smile Direct Club. Guys.
Oh, you saw the SDC move.
Wait, what is this? Someone help me out here.
It's a gap fill.
Oh, yes, it is. Here, you know what? Let's make my SDC a little bit less opaque, right? How's that? Is that a little better, easier to see? Okay, so did we fill that gap? Oh, we did fill that gap from August 9th or August 10th, whatever.
Yeah, we filled it. The question is, well, I think I said it on live trading that I wanted to see it close above 7, because if it's not, it's a little bit scary that it could come back down from here. But it was a good move.
Do we know? Is it just technical?
Yeah, it's just technical. This is just a little bit of a squeeze on a stock that's pushed down, and then a lot of people jumped in it, probably trying to get it through that shadow. It did pop all the way up to a high in the intraday of 742. So it went up quickly, but also came right back down quickly.
If you ain't faded, you ain't trading. This move is being faded right now. All right. People are messing with me, Mitch, in the background right now. They're messing with me in Slack. Luke was in here for a minute. He said that Jason wants to come on. I was like, what? But now Jason is here.
Boom, boom. The man himself.
So I'm so confused. I'm so confused what's happening right now, Jason.
I'll take a sip of my coffee. I might need it. What's going on, Jason? How are we doing?
Keep taking a sip of that coffee. That's okay.
I don't even know what's going on. Luke was like in here for 5 minutes staring at me.
Well, Luke told me that you wanted me on, so I'm here, Spencer.
Oh, man.
No.
This is somehow all Aaron Bree's fault. I haven't figured out how yet.
Spencer. I'm just joking.
I know.
No, and the other stuff, they're probably messing with you and whatever. But on this one, no, I wanted to come on for a couple quick little tidbits, and that's it. So, and that's what I'm here for. But I just want to see what the stock is doing before I talk about it. Okay. So Spencer, I don't get how people don't own Asana, Generac. It's GNRC.
Do you still own Asana? I was meaning to ask you about that.
A small amount. Okay.
Okay.
It's like I screwed up with that and HubSpot because I owned, a lot of shares when it was like $48, and then I owned, a lot less, but still a good position for me. So some of these stocks you just own, or Upwork. Upwork went down back to like 38, and I bought more shares. Upwork's probably my third biggest position now. UPWK. It's probably my third biggest position. And people were texting me that owns. Oh, by the way, Spencer, did you love that I got all those emails?
How many did you? I only saw a couple. How many did you get?
I only put power on a couple. I don't want to spam you guys too much, but honestly, probably 12, 14.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What Jason's referring to is this morning.
Okay.
What?
I don't know what you're gonna say. So
no. I want to tell people what you're talking about, so because not everyone was watching. We're talking today about the New York Stock Exchange opening and balance feed, and everyone was in the chat. Hey, is this in Benzinga Pro? And I said, no, it's not. But here's how you can help. Email Jason, and they did.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And I put Ryan Falloon on a few. You should see Ryan's responses are so long. And then he realized, okay, wait, this is not one person. And so he wrote the longest response. I can't even read it. It's like, well, no, it's actually pretty good. He said you can see imbalances if you go to the news feed and just look up imbalances.
I was going to say that at the time, but I thought, nah. Hey, wait, here's a question from Shashi Reddy. Jason, I'll paraphrase it. It's Jason, where you been? Where you at? We don't see you much these days.
It's a good question. This person also said, do I buy Kin Insurance? I just looked up. I don't know the symbol. I don't know every symbol by heart, guys. So Sasha, where have I? OCA. Yeah. I typed in Kin into my.
Wait, what is this? Kathy Wounds?
Kathy Wounds. Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna Kathy Wood. I'm working on for the second series, part 2. So we're working on for part 2. It may be in person. It may be virtual. We're not sure. But that's the idea. Where have I been? I've been doing the research. I don't know. I feel like I've been doing more work than I ever have the past, ever. So there was less time to do the video, even though I love doing it. And I plan on doing a lot more of this stuff, guys. I plan on doing a lot more video, just so you guys know. I mean, a lot more with doing the RAS reports. I got some guests lined up that I think are pretty good. There's this guy, I'm not even gonna tell you, but he asks you what you do for a living. Then I just want to say one thing. You were raving about it during the SPAC attack. Was wondering, oh yeah, I do like it. So Kin Insurance, is that the one with Gary B and the other guy?
Mitch, help me out.
You got it.
Yes.
Right on.
Yes, I don't know if I'm buying it right now. Remember, I wanted to buy it, but I didn't want to buy it because they're on the show that day. So I'm going to buy shares of it right now. Someone just wrote them, trying to pump it up. Because I don't try to pump shit up. If I own a stock, I'll tell you I own it. Pumping it up to make a stock moves, that doesn't do anything. I mean, for me, I don't. So I don't try to pump it up. I love Kin Insurance because I like the people behind it. I am buying. I'll show you live if you want to see my screen. I'm buying 500 shares right now of Kin Insurance as a starting position. Thank you for reminding me. I had no clue.
It's gone 6 months sideways, so I don't think Jason's making any change of action right now. But
on this, the ticker is OCA. Is that right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I just bought. I can show the screenshot. I'm happy to do that. I just bought. Here, I'll share my screen so you guys can see. I'm not lying. Because I didn't get in before when I said I loved it because it was the day that they were on. But there's a lot of things I love. I can tell you why I love it, but maybe that's not even worthwhile. But I got to do this real quick. Hold on, Spencer. Oh, there it is.
I just pulled it up.
Well, thanks, man. So there's my order at 500 shares. That's my first order into it. But I like that they're going to be able to diversify, and they also have really good social media following. And I'm a fan of it. So Solar Up, nope, knocks the pump. Thank you for reminding me. Now, if I lose money, Solar Up, I'm going to ask you for a refund. But no, I'm going to buy shares and buy into it. Okay, I love that little logo, Benzinga All Access stocks. All right, so 2 quick little things, guys. I know I've been out and I'm back. I don't know. But if you go to benzinga.com today on the web or mobile, you have to click like 5 article pages basically to click through, and like, you have to get like 5 pages. There'll be a survey that pops up. Now, the survey's a little long. It's 7 to 8 minutes in length. I didn't create the survey. It's another company doing a survey. And if all you guys who've listened to this, who we asked to like, I'm asking you, I know Luke mentioned it, but I'm asking if you could take the chance to go do the survey, hopefully say nice things about us. When you refer us, give us a nice number. But if you send a screenshot when you're done with the survey, or a screenshot of the nice thing you said about us, to powerhour@benzinga.com. Will you, Mitch? Will you write powerhour@benzinga.com?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wait, I'm getting the homepage up. So where exactly is the survey?
Okay. So have you been on the homepage today? Yes.
Yes.
It may have already popped up for you. It pops up when you go to the after 4 times it'll pop up. I can give a direct link though too, I guess.
That might be easier. So I guess if you've already been to the homepage today, you're not going to like me. You're not going to see it.
I guess you can do incognito and you would see it.
Let's try that.
Up. I don't know if the direct link works because they may be like trying to hide a guard against that. But here is the direct link, I guess. But I don't know if it like will register. So I would hate for you to do all that work and not for it to register. But it's important. So it's a pretty big survey. Yes. Now it's the longest thing I'm ever going to ask. And I get that you would quit, so someone, people are going to win a free year of Benzinga Pro option newsletters. We're giving those out. We're giving a few of them out to people that complete the survey. It is long. 562 people have taken it so far. It's too long for my liking. I wanted it shorter. I tried to remove stuff. They gave me pushback. What I'm saying is, if you guys take the survey, send a screenshot to powerhour@benzinga.com. I think Mitch put the email address in. It'll take, or Mitch, did you not put the email address in?
I got it.
All right, I guess you forgot.
I just don't have full access right today. Normally I got it full access here. So
why don't you have full access?
I'm running the show, and it's going to stay that way. It's going to stay that way
today, Jason.
All right, that's fine. That's totally fine. Okay, so send a screenshot, and we will send you swag. So just please include your size. Maybe you already have a T-shirt for yourself. Maybe you have a kid. Maybe you have an uncle. I don't know. Give your size and then the address to send it to make it easy. And we will send it out to you.
Swag. Give your swag.
Hey, that's on a hanger.
It's nice. Oh, that's so funny. He has it right there. So if you do that, the survey is easy. I'll give you one piece of advice. I know you may have looked at other websites. You may want to say less because you don't want to have to ask more questions. They give you follow-up questions once you say you do things. But there's a thing where you said, will you refer Benzinga? 9s and 10s are really nice. But if we can get 10 people to do that, I would love to see 10 emails at powerhour@benzinga.com with a screenshot. Spencer said swag. I used to say swag. So powerhour@benzinga.com. If you fill out the survey, we'll send you swag. If you filled it out yesterday and you did a good one, maybe fill it out again on your mobile this time. I don't know. But thank you. And no, these are everyone, guys. You guys listening to the show, I want you guys to remember, you are us. So you own us. We're here for you. So if you guys are looking to contribute to Benzinga, you want to contribute research. I had an analyst call me, an ex-analyst who worked at Goldman Sachs, who's now, after next weekend, to provide research in the telecom space to us for free. He's going to write reports, write things. He's obsessed with Benzinga, and it was just one of those things. Okay, let's get started. Let's see if there's something to figure out. And if it figured out, then he'll make money later. But powerhour@benzinga.com for the survey. And I know what is Zeta? Zeta, Beta, Tau? I don't know Zeta. I don't.
Come on.
ZBT. Okay, ZBT.
Jason, we know where you went to school.
Zeta, Beta, Tau. I wasn't in ZBT, but Zeta. Well, kind of.
Zeta Global. Zeta Global. This is
Before coming on though, Jason, I think you were looking at a trade idea. I don't want to miss out on that trade idea. So you got to let me know before you get on out of here what
Well,
stock you're looking at.
I did buy OCA, okay, and then
There was something else.
No, you're right. You're right. I'm not denying that you are right. So just hold on. I don't know if people want a cannabis play or not. But I'll tell you, Eli went down to 28.29. I bought more shares of it, so I have 550 shares. Callaway. I know people think golf is over because summer months. I don't think golf is over, and I think Top Golf is just taking off. I like Eli, ELY. I do. I know Mitchell likes GENI. And Mitchell, you are up 3% on that pick when I was down at one point. So I have to give you credit on that. And then the other one that I like, Spencer Israel, is Garmin GRMN. And I own all those stocks. So I'm not here to pump up my stocks. I own them. I'm owning them. I'm talking about. And wait, guys, before you cut me off, Spencer, I know you might want to ask me. I have one more stock. I own the stock HUMA. Okay, I own the preferreds and I own the regular stock.
What is this?
HUMA. Well, that's why I want to ask you guys. It's called Humasite. Why the heck did I buy it? I think it was from the Power Hour, but I have to say thank you because it's up 27%. We bought it in the Power Hour, and I have no idea what it is. So someone in the Power Hour, I think, gave it to us because they said some big guys behind it. It's maybe what is Humasite? Does anyone know?
I've never heard of this before. I don't know what this is.
No, you don't.
You got the pro for it. Just scroll on down.
Did I even know?
It's a disruptive biotechnology platform to deliver universally implantable bioengineered human tissues and organs. Wow. Okay, that sounds
disruptive.
Cool. All I know is I bought a decent amount. It's up 30%, and I bought it recently. And I mean, the regular stock I didn't buy a lot of. I bought 250 shares, so it was 2,700. But the preferreds I bought it's up 27%. It came from the Power Hour. I don't know who gave it. Was it you, Shasta? Yeah, Huma. That's the other one. I own it. I'm not selling it because there's a reason I bought it, and I got to look at Pro if I put a note into it.
You forgot what the reason you bought it was.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So I'm saying I'm trying to ask you, Power Hour. I'm going to Benzinga Pro to see if I put a note on why I bought it because Benzinga Pro has a notes feature, guys, which is awesome as long as you use it. Let's see if I used it because it'll alert me that I have a note in there for it. I'll tell you in 14 seconds.
All right. While you look up that note, I want to say our last guest of today's All Access show is here. Guys, Terry Booth. If the name rings a bell, it means you've been following the cannabis space for a while because Terry Booth was one of the OG, the original people in Aurora Cannabis way back in the day. He is now the CEO of Audacious Brands. I see Terry in the background. I'm going to bring him on in just a second. But I have to kick you off first. So.
Yeah, so you'll kick me off. But so then,
yeah.
So the note, I don't have a note. I don't know why I bought Humasite. I bought it. Planted Cyclist. If you go to Benzinga on your mobile, then hit 5 pages. The survey will come up. The link I gave you should work. Right? That link should work. But go to hit 5 pages. I promise you it'll come up. Everyone says it doesn't come up, but it does. Right. 3 to 4 or 5 pages. Thank you, guys. And I'm so excited to hear Terry. Spencer, I'm glad you're doing this. Spencer has done a tremendous job today. He interviewed Penn National, J.
Snowden. Guy running away, man.
Not Edwards. What'd you say?
Not the guy running away.
Yeah.
You can't forget that name.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. So, so he did a great job and put a lot of different facts together. I thought it was great, and he got kind of rammed a little bit by Joel because Joel started asking about horses. It wasn't like,
no. Okay. All right, Jason. Thank you for that.
Have a great
one. Okay, you did. You got Joel started asking about horses for like 5 minutes. That's all right.
Okay. Yeah, you also rammed me pretty good.
I'm gonna get you on up out of here.
Well, Mitch. Spencer, I definitely rammed you a bit because you needed to ask this stuff and bring this stuff in. We got to take it to another level, man.
All right. Guys, okay. Jason Rasnick is the CEO of our company, at Jason Rasnick on Twitter. Email him, Jason at Benzinga, CRS. Well, let's get Terry Booth on. Let's bring some sanity to this, please. I need some normalcy. Terry Booth from Audacious Brands. Here he comes. Soothing music. Terry, thanks for joining us today. How we doing?
I'm good, man. Sorry, a little bit late. Had some technical difficulties. I was sitting in a little black box for a while.
That's okay.
Another link sent to you.
That's quite all right. That's quite all right. It's been a morning here as well. Okay, I gave a little bit about your background. I dropped the big one on them just now that everyone who knows you remembers you from Aurora Cannabis. For people who don't know who you are, though, just give us real quick, and then we'll get to the good stuff. Your background, how you ended up right now as the CEO of Audacious Brands.
Real quick, I grew up in the electrical trade, master electrician. Became an inspector, so learned a lot about regulatory. Opened an inspection company. It's private here in Alberta, so got to learn the Alberta government, municipalities, federal government, and whatnot. And then my buddy Steve, who was my partner in that company, came to me with a cannabis idea, and away we went. And I packed up my golf clubs and I went hard on what I call a pilgrimage, and learning again about the industry once again. Obviously, I know quite a bit about the industry now, and I did in my 20s. But I went on a pilgrimage down the West Coast, and I met a lot of great people in various dispensaries, underground grows, and whatnot, and knew that this was an amazing plant that's going to bring amazing benefits to people. And that was about 3 months later. Steve and I we applied for permits the same time everybody else did. We're number 69, but we did something different. We built from the ground up. We built purposeful, and we were the only ones that were doing it at the time, and we were the very first ones to complete it. So it was a great facility, a little north of Calgary called Mountain, 55,000 square feet, and it was the first one to become GMP compliant in the country. So that was the kickoff. Steve and I put a lot of our own dough into it, and then we went out and sought investors. Our first investor was my ex-wife, which is sort of cool. Right? The circle of love. But yeah, that's pretty well.
Can I ask real fast? Was she investor? What came first? Her being ex-wife, her being an investor?
Her being ex-wife.
Okay. Wow. All right. That's the answer I expected.
I cut her the check 2 months before I went back and asked for some of it back.
Oh man. Okay. If you're looking at Audacious and you're Googling and you're confused, just to clarify, company recently, you guys just changed your name. You guys were Australia's capital, right? Now you're Audacious Brands.
Yeah. Australis is still our corporate name.
Okay.
Symbol AUSA.
Okay.
I'm just polishing off the Australis website, so I think we have a landing page there, but we're very close to launching the full brand.
Okay, so the whole Audacious Brands thing, is pretty new. So talk to us about that and what you're doing, and just your time at the company.
Sure, real quick. Australis was born from Aurora, and it was born because the NYSE weren't allowing and still not allowing companies to touch the plant. So we had already started Australis when we were listed on the CSE. And we bought some land in Washington. So you page forward, and Steve and I stepped down as I was the CEO of it, and Steve was the president. We hired a new board, or brought in a new board, and they hired a management team, and away they went. Raised quite a bit of money, actually. Didn't get a lot done, not a lot of their fault. Sort of ran into some bad luck with some states changing regulations and whatnot. And at the same time, this was all coming down, I don't know, last year, around this time actually, where I was exiting Aurora, and it wasn't long after that a dissident battle started against that board, and boom, we won. I joined the dissident group shortly thereafter I resigned from Aurora, and we kicked their butts pretty hard. It was like 60 million votes to 20, and since we knew we were going to kick their butts, we started planning what this new switch would look like. And it wasn't it was a cannabis company before, but it wasn't what I think the investors expected. They expected us to get our boots dirty and our hands dirty and get into the space in a big way. And that's what we've done. And we started planning for it. We bought a company named ALPS, which used to stand for Aurora Larson Projects. Aurora skidded it when they were doing their cutbacks. It's an amazing company, an amazing engineer named Thomas Larson. We took on a company, Mr. Natural Brands, or he was a t-shirt. He's an awesome dude, 72-year-old, after 71, sorry, Bob, 71 guy that has grown cannabis longer than I've been alive. So he knows what the hell he's doing. He's out of Cali. And we also brought on Green Therapeutics, Dr. Duke Fu. And we did that in a very short time frame, and it formed the base for us to start bringing in top-notch executives. Leah Bailey, Jean-Paul, CFO. Leah Bailey's Chief Business Development Officer, and Duke stepped down as CEO to become CEO when I joined Audacious.
Got it. Well, you mentioned your CFO. He's actually here. I want to bring him on, and actually let's just bring him on now because I want to ask you about your earnings report that I think it was 2 weeks ago that came out. Maybe John's a better person to ask that question to. So let's bring John Paul on now. He's the CFO, as you just said. Paul, John, good morning, good afternoon. Just make sure you unmute yourself real fast on the bottom there. There's that little microphone button you can unmute. And there we go. And then John, I'll just throw it to you there. Just tell us about the earnings report from the other week.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get that. So
the earnings report. I think you guys just had earnings, didn't you?
Yeah, we had earnings. So we had So this is my second time as a CFO of a public cannabis company. Love the industry, and great to be involved with a pioneer, Terry Booth, great visionary, and we put a terrific team together. Our previous audit firm got bought up by a larger audit firm, Baker Tilly, and in a way, it's a good thing for us because now, we've been audited by a top number 9 audit firm. So it's stepped up, and they had long quality control process. And, it actually basically centered around, some of the acquisition accounting that we did. The operating numbers still remain the same. And we got that released finally after a month delay. And then we're ready, and we released the Q1 financials shortly after.
Can you tell us about what the numbers were and how you're doing on that front?
Yeah, talk to the year end and Q1, John, because they both got released.
Each other. So the biggest thing is that Terry mentioned we had acquired ALPS, which is an amazing engineering company doing greenhouse and horticultural consulting there, and with that has substantially grown our revenues. From the previous management, they mostly have fintech companies, and they were only generating revenues of about $1 million a year. Now with the ALPS and along with the Green Therapeutics, which we'll eventually get to consolidate into the numbers, now we're up to, in very short order, trailing 12 month revenues of $7 million there. And growth margins are increasing from nothing to now being $1 million or more per quarter. The great thing about ALPS is very high gross margin business there.
And Terry, just on a higher level, can you speak to the next few? I don't even know, a few quarters is too short term, but maybe next few years, and where you're going to get your growth from?
Oh, we're going to get it from our philosophy and our strategy, and with ALPS, it gives us entry into the states that we're behind the ball on in a quick way, because we're piggybacking on top of other people's licenses by building their facilities. And during the negotiations to build or improve those facilities, we ask for a little bit of canopy. We don't give them a discount on the build or anything, but we ask for canopy. The owners of these facilities like that because it keeps our nose to the grindstone after the fact, after the facility is built. The deal we just did in Massachusetts with the Bell Floor guys, we've got 10% of canopy. It looks like we'll do something on the manufacturing side with them as well. They're a social equity license. There's a group in Arizona that we're negotiating with some canopy. So it brings the cannabis to the play, our cultivars, our brands a lot quicker. And this is a brand play, Audacious. It's not going to be a big CapEx model where I'm out there building $350 million square foot facilities all over the world and employing 4,000 people. It's going to be focused on the U.S. market and the states that we want to be in.
What states are you in, and do you want to be in?
We're in Nevada, California, now including Alps. There's 12. I could go get a list, but because he also does sustainable grow. But cannabis wise, we're in Nevada, California, Oklahoma, Missouri, Massachusetts, Washington, and you'd have to say we're on the East Coast as well. We've hired 4 lobbyists, paying them a bunch of money in New York and New Jersey, looking at that little triangle, Pennsylvania and whatnot. So the states that we're not in are few. We're not looking at, but we have prioritized the states that we want to be in. It's important that we enter regulatory environments that are favorable to MSOs, right? Some of these states, if you're a late entrant, you don't get what's called a super license. You only get one vertical. But New Jersey just changed those rules so you can get a vertical. So I hope New York follows suit, and that's massive for us.
I'm curious, Terry, and maybe you both could speak to this, but to Terry, the differences in running Aurora, which is LP, right, the licensed producer, versus what you're doing now, which is basically going at it from the brand side. You have a brand, you're trying to build that brand up. What are the biggest differences in terms of being on this end of the market, being versus where you were before?
Yeah, I think when I was at Aurora, anyway, we had a great brand. We were the #1 brand whenever we tested the brand. But in Canada, you're not allowed to build the brand like you are in America. The Americans have a better system, if you will, where licensed producers are very much handcuffed in any advertising, any labeling, any billboards, anything. That's just not allowed. So it's more difficult in Canada. Remember, Canada's only got a population of 33 million or so people, and it's got an excellent medical system. And Canada did a great job in bringing on the first legal adult usage system. But when you get into the States with respect to brand, where your difficulties lie, we call it 50 countries. And you have to be able to cross those state lines. And not a lot of companies have done it yet.
Yeah,
they haven't done it yet. You could say maybe Cookies is taking a good stab at it. The True Leave team is doing not a bad job. But to really build a brand, you need to bring in brand people. And Leah Bailey is obviously from the CPG industry. She's already brought in a couple of firms. I think this Audacious brand is going to kick some butt, man. I think when we step into these states, and even if we just get our cultivars growing at 10% canopy, we'll still buy other cannabis and white label stuff, but we have to build the brand, and we have a good plan in place.
What you just said is about 50 countries in the U.S. is so true, for better or worse. It's just the way it is right now. Every market is so different. I think you're right. Cookies is probably the closest thing that we have to a national brand, but even that is not even close. So, we'll get there one day. John, I want to ask you, just from a financial standpoint, what in your view is like the one number that investors should be keying in on right now?
Well, a great thing about the strategy and having the amazing company such as Alps, and you see a proof of concept there in Massachusetts with Bella Floricas. These were people that had operating experience in California, and they said they already knew it, but once talking to Alps, they said, well, we can really learn from the Alp people and have a much better operation. But for us, I think it's the ability to leverage the investments that we have by getting the canopy through the relationship with Alps customers. We minimize the expensive capital investment up front, and therefore we can get much more leverage on the investor capital that comes into our company. So our capital is going to go more into product lines, into brands, into distribution, rather than into the building of very expensive cultivation facilities. So to me, always the biggest number is the investment required to grow the business.
Yeah, and Spencer, I'll add to what John said there. It's also really cool that we don't have to go through an intensive licensing process. As I said, we're a little bit late to the licensing game, but we're not late to the construction game. We're not late to the improvement game. And these facilities that we're seeing in the States are normally rather small, right? They're sort of, they're not massive facilities, but they're still big enough to have systemic problems in them. And when we come in there with our environmental team and with the Alps team, a real quick story with the Belle Fleur guys, they're all a bunch of Cali guys, amazing cannabis, very cerebral, backed by a lot of artists that they don't even pay. Irvin Whitlow is a well-known producer and whatnot in LA, and we got Rolly and Dominicus, and those guys, when they first approached us, they just wanted some scratch. They just want some money, man. They thought we were Australis Capital. Can you give us some money? We're not an investment company anymore. We're a cannabis company. I got on a call with them for 2.5 hours. I was only on for an hour and a half, and Joel Fuzat was on the call, Thomas Larson. And after that call, the boys at Belle Fleur said, we have to use Alps to build this facility. And these guys know their weed. They were growing a million square feet under canopy in California for a long time, if you know what I mean. So they do have a top tier license in Mass. It's social equity, so they also got delivery. and we're part of them. I think we're going to move forward with them into the East Coast as well. Great guys, great cannabis, and already building an excellent brand with Rapper Weed. And I don't know if you saw some of the, the quotes in our press releases with Machine Gun Kelly. MGK is going to be at our party in Las Vegas as we launch the Audacious brand. He's going to be performing there, and it's going to be a kick-ass party. He's dating a beautiful young lady.
I think we're going to be there as well. I was hearing some whispers around the office about someone talking to Machine Gun Kelly. I just had a question. Oh, right. My coincidence. I happened to have seen this. The headline was from what's today, Friday? So Wednesday. I saw this headline out of Washington. Someone in the House trying to sneak the States Act in to a defense bill. We've been sort of waiting on Washington to do something, and Schumer introduced his thing a few months ago, but I've heard nothing about that since that was introduced. But anyway, the headline on Wednesday was that maybe we're going to get some sort of a financial ruling or some form of the States Act, which would basically take the handcuffs off of the banks and allow them to work with this industry. Maybe they're going to sneak that into a bill. It's a long ways off. It's just an introduction, but I was curious if you both saw that and had a reaction to it.
I did, and I actually have a report on it. I'm not finished reading it. We got it from one of my lobbyists. Bottom line with the SAFE Act, it's important. These I always say I take my hat off to the American cannabis teams because of the strife that they've had to go through. They can't put money in a bank. They can only take cash. They can't take credit cards. So the SAFE Act is more than just letting the banks in. It's letting the businesses into the bank, and that will lead to, as you say, and you're spot on, where the banks can start funding some of these guys, and we can operate like regular businesses. Well, what about the fact that you can't deduct your expenses, right? But you have to pay your taxes with I forget what it's called, 20E or something.
Yeah,
it's those changes are going to really move the publicly traded companies. Even the bad ones will move with good news out of the federal government, and it's not uncommon. From what I understand, maybe you're up to speed more than I am on US. Maybe John is on US, but that's how they do it. They sneak these regs into different acts, right? And so it's like what we're doing. They're audacious.
I went with my mom for the first time to a dispo. I don't know, like 4 months ago, and she was like, "What? Why do they have security guards with guns?" I was like, "Mom, because they probably keep all their cash on premises, like because they can't put it in a bank." Like,
yeah, it's dangerous. It is dangerous.
So it ain't easy. So hats off to every dispo out there, because it's tough. It's tough.
It is getting a little bit better without the SAFE Act, like the credit unions. Yeah. We've managed to find some U.S. banking. Good on John.
Yeah,
and it's across the country, but it still sort of sucks, man. And any move to the positive will be a good move for pubcos and us cannabis guys.
Yeah.
I think the ones that really lose out are a lot of the minority players. We have a relationship. We can find the banks, but they're the ones most likely who have to be dealing with cash and have the biggest security issues. So, we're trying to tie all this together with social equity. Well, let's just open up the banking. Just let the commercial banks take the cash. We'll figure out the investment banking later. Let us go public in the U.S., but at least just let us get the cash off the streets.
That's a really great point. The commercial banking versus the investment banking world. The people that I talk to are always focused on the investment side, but like John's right. I mean, really, let's get the commercial side done first, and then worry about the rest of it later. We're on with Terry Booth, who is the CEO, and John Paul, who is the CFO of Audacious Brands. Guys, before we let you go, any final thoughts from either of you about the state of the industry, about your brand, about the state of the business?
I'm just happy to be down in USA with this great group and this great management team. It's really coming together for Audacious. If you look at the press releases, look at our history, we're executing, and we're executing on EBITDA positive, soon to be cash flow positive businesses in a lot of cases. We're in California in a big way in a very short time frame. What we've done since March is incredible. And I just applaud this team, and it's good. And it's going to continue, man. We've got some more stuff coming down the pipe for you all, and you're going to love this play. I really think it's a great company that has a long way to go in the capital markets. Undervalued, man. It's undervalued. We're an MSO3. We categorize that as less than 500 million, MSO2, 500 to $1 billion, and then MSO1 over $1 billion. And I'm talking about top line rev. And we'll be in that 2 category before you know it. And when we hit there and we're still sitting at 80 million, $90 million market, come on, it's crazy, but that's good. So it gives investors an opportunity to get in on the ground floor still. And we'll see where we go from here as we execute, as we get some more liquidity to this stock. That's my job. I did okay. I think we were the top traded cannabis stock in the world for the longest time. We were top on with the Reddit folks, and we were top with what are they called, John? The guys at Robinhood. We were ahead of Apple on Robinhood. Right? I mean, at Aurora.
You're talking about Aurora, right?
Yeah, speaking of, and maybe I shouldn't speak so much to yesteryear. You can't point back or you end up breaking your finger. But the forward path with this company, man, I'm pumped. I'm excited. And don't think I'm a painted CEO. I am involved 90 hours a week, just like I was with the other teams. That's just me. I love business.
All right, Terry Booth, John Paul, CEO, CFO, Audacious Brands, guys. Thank you both for coming on today.
Thanks, Spencer. Thanks for having us.
All right. And I almost got through the entire show without one mention of EBITDA, but we got it, snuck one in there at the end. That's all right. Okay, guys, here's the play right now. I'm going to hop off. I've been on the stream for basically all day here. Get Technical with Neil Hamilton coming up live right now, youtube.com/Benzinga. I don't know if he is starting early or if he's going to start at 1 o'clock as he normally does, but he'll be starting at latest 1 o'clock Eastern time, 8 minutes from now. So all that being said, thanks to all of the speakers, all the presentations we had today. We had John, we had Terry, we had David Luxton from Kwesst Microsystems, Leonard Mazur, Citius Pharmaceuticals, Adam Kaplin, MyMD, Scott Burton, FansUnite, Art Smith, Digirati Technologies, Larry O'Reilly, Art Media. Again, I hope you all learned something. We're trying these new things. They're not like typical shows for us. They're a little bit longer form in the conversations. They're not really about trading. They're not really about the market. They're just about companies that are emerging, that are growing, that do not, frankly, get hardly any press. A lot of them, and this is an avenue for them to bring them to you, but also to bring you to them. So we're trying to do that. We are always looking for feedback. You can email us shows@benzinga.com, powerhour@benzinga.com, whatever. Both those emails go to the same people anyway. But we're trying to experiment and to see what brings value for you. But just to repeat what I said at the top of the show, in case you missed that, all the companies speaking on today's show are partners of Benzinga. This show is not monetized on YouTube. We're not running ads against it. And just getting that disclaimer out there just so everyone knows. But we did not. These companies didn't get the questions ahead of time. It wasn't like that, but they are partners of Benzinga, and these companies did pay us to be here today. Okay, so all that being said, I'm done. It has been a long day for me, and the markets are a chop fest as I'm seeing here as I look at my Benzinga Pro. Right. Yeah. Guys, reminder, options expiration. It's going to be a crazy close. I won't be there with you, unfortunately. I have a doctor's appointment today. So Joel and Mitch will be back. We'll be on with you at 3:30. Neil Hamilton will be on live in a minute or 2 or 3. He's followed by Moon or Bust, our altcoins / shitcoins show. And that's a wrap. So how many likes are we at here? I have not asked for likes at all, I feel like, on this entire stream. Whoa. 153. Get me to 200, and then I'll be a happy man. Michael Murray, do you want to say something? No. Okay.
you put me on, and then you took me right back off.
I didn't do that. I didn't do that.
No, great event. It's always fun hosting with you, Spencer. It was a blast.
Okay.
Aaron asked me to jump on and say goodbye. It was a good time. We had some great companies. Another great event.
Okay, goodbye then, Michael.
Goodbye.
Goodbye to everyone as well. Hit that like. We're at 1. Oh my God, AB, stop. Who's doing that? I don't even know. Guys, it's Friday. Okay, it's Friday. All right, we're done. Smash that like button. Get technical with Neil Hamilton coming live right now. YouTube.com/Benzinga. That's how you find it. I'll see you guys later. Let's end it with a commercial. Let's end it with a commercial for which ad should I play here? Yeah, we just had a cannabis interview, a guest on. So let's end it with a trailer for our cannabis show.
Welcome to the Benzinga Cannabis Hour.
There are more people who are in favor of legalization.
I saw the benefits of it for myself.
I just have to ask, was there pot pasta in the cannabis cookbook?
Oh, it was gorgeous. There was pot pasta.
We were talking about cannabis pasta.
That opened my eyes to the cannabis industry.
It's this new industry where now billions of dollars are being made.
We're here to bring cannabis into culture.